Is Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. Time is 9:04. We will start. Is there any additions to the agenda, Madam Clerk? All right. County Council, or can you please read into the item or read in the items for closed session?
Yes, Chairman, members of the board. Although there are 3 items on the agenda, there are only 2 items for your discussion today. It's under Government Code Section 54957, the public employee appointment and employment of 2 positions, the county librarian and the director of human resources. There are no items to discuss under your regular conference with your labor negotiators. Thank you.
All right. Is there any public comment on closed session items? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion, and we will go back for closed session. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. Time is 10:04. We came back from closed session. Is there any reportable actions out of closed session?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. There are no reportable actions from today's closed session.
Thank you. Meeting is in order. As I break my microphone. Is there anybody that we'd like to open and close in memory of today? No. Oh, good week then.
In that light, let's open and close in the memory of all fallen veterans. Since this is Veterans Month, we will do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will have our invocation led by Pastor Dave Hawes, and we will have our Pledge of Allegiance led by Kirsten Gross. She's out there.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's pray. Father, we love you so much, grateful for who you are. And this morning I was just thinking about this time together in this room and reminded that you promise that you're constantly looking for men and women whose heart fully belong to you. And that when you find men and women whose heart fully belongs to you, who will stand in the gap on the behalf of the city and the county, you will do incredible things through them for the flourishing, the thriving of the city. And so I pray for these men and these women in this room. I pray for the things that are brought up for discussion. I pray for the decisions that are made, that it would be for the flourishing of the city and the county of Madera. And Lord, I pray for men and women who will truly stand in the gap and make tough decisions and make just decisions. And I thank you that I see that in this room, men and women who truly want to be about that. And so, Lord, I pray for years and generations to come that this would be a city and a county that flourishes because of good men and women that truly, truly want to stand in the gap and intercede for this city. So we thank you for that. Pray for your presence in this time, in these decisions to be made. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4, public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning, Ron Montoya, Madera, California. I'd like to start off by reading something out of General Norman Schwarzkopf's book. In the summer of 1957, we had a huge influx of draftees, and we were working 15-hour days to get them through properly trained and assimilated into the unit. The worst soldier in the church in the bunch was a guy from upstate New York. He insisted that he'd been in a motorcycle accident and had sustained brain damage that caused him occasionally to become catatonic. The doctor was mystified. He couldn't say what problem was, but also couldn't say there was no problem. Sergeant Montoya and Gonzalez, Korean War veterans who supervised the recruits, did not think there was much of this at all. Sir, that son of a bitch is getting over on us. I was concerned, General Norman Schwarzkopf, that if he had a medical condition that he could die. Look, Sarge, he may or may not be. We just don't know. We can't take a chance. So the sergeants improvised their own cure. The troops lived on the second floor of the barracks, and every Friday night they had what was a GI party, which entailed scrubbing the floor, waxing it, and buffing it to a shine. One Friday night I heard screaming and raced upstairs and burst into the squad bay. Montoya and Gonzalez had the private hanging over the window upside down with his ankles. He was in a panic, and Gonzalez was yelling, "You little bastard, it didn't take you long to wake up this time." Mr. Rogers, this is Veterans Month. My grandfather served Korea, 3 tours in Vietnam, awarded the Purple Heart, shot in the knee, and also an arrow right through his body. Back in 1984 in November, Bullard, Minnewawa, he's killed by a drunk driver. Mr. Fleming, you think this is stick? A lot of our family members have been affected by poor mistakes, poor judgments. Yeah, you said you were sorry, and I appreciate you owning up to that. But I remember 8 years old, curled up in the fetal position. I didn't go because I didn't know what was death. I had no idea what a DUI was. I had no idea that this is part of the life cycle that we don't like to talk about. Unfortunately, this driver robbed me from my grandfather, robbed my grandmother from her spouse. Now, my grandma's been a widow since 1984, and to this day, she says, you know what, Ron Jr., I'm a one-man woman. She's dedicated and devoted to him, and she's not afraid to pass away. She knows where she's going. But it's a shame that people in charge of this county are kind of nonchalantly going on about their way of life when people have been affected by mistakes. Why didn't we remember Joyce Willett, 15-year-old, killed by a drunk driver a week and a half ago in Chowchilla on 5th Street? We need to talk about the elephant in the room. This is affecting all of us. And it's not okay, this nonchalant attitude, no, we're not going to do no action. But you know what? We can do something. This is why we need term limits. I'm going around collecting signatures around the county, and it's working. People are uniting. And the day before, the Board of Supervisors threw a hand grenade in the animal shelter, Friends of Madera Animal Shelter, on November 7th. Mr. Fleming showed up in court for driving under the influence. What broke the camel's back for me, not also was in 1984, but when you screw around with animals, it's not okay. What are we doing?
Your time's up.
The time is up.
Thank you. And quick plug, Pizza Guys today is having a fundraiser. 30% of the profits go to the animal shelter, and Sassy is available for adoption. Thank you, Kirsten, for all that you do.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Loza, Assistant Treasurer Tax Collector. As you may recall, back in September, our Treasurer Tax Collector came before your board to inform you that our security property tax bills had been mailed out and that the bills had been updated and printed with the true and actual due dates of November 1 and February 1 per Revenue and Taxation Code. So now we did this for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, to encourage taxpayers to pay their property taxes early, not to wait for the last minute, and to help even out the cash flows in Treasury. But we also did it to even out the workload for our tax collector staff and to help stabilize our peak periods in December and April to be able to provide better service for our taxpayers. So since then, we've seen some positive results, which we wanted to share with you all today. It's actually good news. So far this year, we've collected over $27 million, $27,454,000, which is about 28% of the secured tax charge for first installment property taxes. And this is actually up 9.47% over last year. So far, our office has processed over 22,000 payments. In comparison to last year, at this time, we had collected a little over 17 million and had processed about 16,000 payments. So in addition to that, we've also seen a large increase in the payments that we've received online. Credit card payments processed at this time last year has more than doubled this year. Last year at this time, we had taken 250 credit card payments. Currently, we have about 556 credit card payments that we've processed. And in addition to that, we've also had 409 more taxpayers use our e-check service, which is our free e-check service. So with that being said, we just wanted to remind our taxpayers that there's still plenty of time to pay your property taxes and that paying online with an e-check is fast, convenient, easy, and it's free. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, she's right. Her name. I had a constituent call me and said, "What's Tracy thinks she's doing, moving it up so much earlier to have to pay our taxes?" And I said, "Do you read it real good?" And she said, "What?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's showing people they can come, don't have to wait to December the 10th to do it." "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, just get it out and read it while we're sitting here talking." She says, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. That is a good idea," she said. So,
it's not late on
she
that
called
day.
me. She was hot, man. She was, "I can't believe you're doing this." I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Weisner, and I'm with the Community Action Partnership of Madera County, and I have with me Maddie Mendez, the Executive Director. And we're here to give a brief update on the senior nutrition program. The senior nutrition program operates 5 sites located in Oakhurst, Corsco, North Fork, Ranchos, and Chowchilla. And we serve about 40 homebound seniors each month. Year to date, from July through September, we've served 2,505 meals. In the month of September, we served about 833 meals. So there's about 200 people that come and go in the course of a month that are served by this program. The program operates on a July to June fiscal year, but the funding predominantly comes from the federal government, which operates on an October to September year. And each year they approve a 3-month resolution to continue operating the program from July to September until the federal government approves the funding for the year. And last week, as of dated November 12th, the county CAO officer received a letter from the Fresno Madera Area on Aging Agency stating that the current funding is going to expire as of November 21st. So as of November 21st, we are operating on not an approved contract. And so Maddie called FMAAA this morning, and as of today, they're voting on another extension of a resolution to operate the program through December the 12th, I believe. And so right now, we're believing that the funding is going to be approved and we're going to go forward and there's not going to be any glitches in the program. But we did want to notify you that there may be a problem. So if it's not resolved by December, we're working with the CAO's office to put together an agenda for the December 10th board meeting to request direction on how to proceed.
Thank you.
Has the program increased with participants in the last couple, 3 years, or held level?
It actually went down,
a bit after more jobs
from the
were
prior year
created.
to this year. And we're working on getting back out there and doing more outreach, so it's starting to go back up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You can bring the baby back in. I don't mind baby cries in here. It reminds us why we're here and who we serve and where the future is. So don't worry about any baby cries.
Yeah, we can do it. Can I say something?
Yeah.
I want everybody to know I got my red, white, blue flag and tie on, bow tie for Brett, that it's the president made all the November Veterans Month. So I'm going to celebrate it all month. So thank you, veterans.
Thank you for sure.
All right. And then Rhonda, you had something for public comment?
I do, yes. I wanted to let the board know that Sunday, we had Falcon Productions here using the 4th floor in the lobby to do filming, and we had a thank you letter from Danny Sosita. Hello, Chairman Fraser and Board of Supervisors. I really want to thank you to everyone for your help and support. Bringing a full-length movie to Madera wouldn't be possible without the city's help. Everyone on set, from directors, cast, and crew, have been blown away with what our city has to offer. I've already been getting calls from other filmmakers asking about the locations. I was watching my crew and actors work as I was thinking, thanks to you guys, over 40 people got to live their dreams of working on and being in a real movie. I honestly can't thank you enough. Having Madera's support is more than just making movies. You have helped me bring a new avenue for our residents to do something new and different that they may never have had the experience without your help. Thank you, thank you. Can't wait to do more, Danny Sosita.
Awesome. Thank you.
Rhonda, what the movie going to be rated at?
I don't know the rating. It's a thriller called State of Consciousness.
Cool.
Other than dying,
They used my office for some of the scenes. Hopefully nothing bad happened in there.
Yeah.
All right, if there's any other public comment? See none, I'll call close the public comment portion. And we'll move into the consent calendar. Any items, any Supervisor Wheeler?
C, D, H, L, N, and O.
So not very many?
Nope, quick ones. On C, on the approval of the RCRC representative, it's just, it's Dave and then Jared and Ahmad, or Ahmad and Jared. the alternate, one of them shouldn't be another supervisor. I'm just asking that. I don't know if it ever has been or not, but,
Well, I think this is just the ESJPA.
yeah.
So it never has been because that it's a technical role and it deals with the landfill and things
Yeah, I've
in
seen
that
that,
regard.
right.
So we felt it best to have, I've never attended them.
Oh.
They
Oh,
always
they always
attend
do?
on my behalf.
Okay, good.
So they're always there, and I always do the RCRC part, but they do the ESJ.
Yeah, the actual RCRC, I think, is,
Yeah, I seen it was for the,
I think I'm the alternate to
Yeah.
David on the actual
Right.
RCRC, but for this one, it's technical and we don't.
and then on the second, and the discussion backup physical impact, it says on the second or third paragraph, it says delegate and alternatives are, it's just got AR, so just need that corrected. So,
Okay.
that, and then on D, let's see, D, approve Greystone Equities, oh, the APN numbers, it says 1, but it's got 3, and I talked to Matt, and he was gonna explain that, so, so he can explain it and change it from that no, it has no instead of 1, too.
Thank you, Supervisor Wheeler. Matt Treber, Community Economic Development Director, Jamie Bax, Deputy Director here. So we do have a error on the recommended actions. The APN, and it is one single APN, is 047271009 that is being requested to have a non-renewal filed for it. Supervisor Wheeler also spoke on the findings, number 2, that should be non, not no renewal, so.
Okay, thank you. Just to make sure we put that number in there when we get it done.
Could I repeat the number? 047-271-009?
Correct.
Thank you.
And you take out the other 3, too, right?
That is correct. It is just one single APN.
And then on H, I just wanted to say that's a great idea. This really will help the public. I had a couple of people complain about that, so Becky, thank you. I think that's a great step, all the steps you've been doing on our vote and everything else, but this is another part of your job that I think is great because, you know, I think I called you first this year, maybe when one of the surveyors was bitching at me, so.
Yeah, and we'll cover the cost with our trust fund money so that the county isn't out the money.
Yeah, another great job.
I'd also asked during agenda review if we had any surplus of these or any that they could use, and there was none, so we do need
Oh, okay.
this actual one.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Then on L, if we're buying those generators, who's doing number L? Public Health? Dennis? When we buy those generators, you know, when it says for, you know, maybe electrifying some building when it's out, is it for your building, or is it for like the community center?
Right.
Or what?
Dennis Cook, Director of Behavioral Health Services, speaking in behalf of Sarah Boss, the Director of Public Health, probably putting their cupboards away right now with their move. So yes, the generator would be used at the, what we would call the Oakhurst Counseling Clinic and the Mountain Wellness Center, which is the drop-in center for our clients. But the idea would be that during power shutoffs, that the staff from Public Health and Social Services could also come and occupy that building. In fact, in our discussions, it was even thought if it was really a crisis up in the community, we would have a place to maybe be wider for community members
Like
to
beside
do a
the
lot of
sheriff
things.
office. Well, I didn't know if you was gonna have it so you could be portable.
No.
Okay, it's gonna be permanent.
It would
So
be
you'll have a
permanent.
disconnect in there, because
Right.
if you're portable, you gotta have those disconnects on those buildings.
No. We would look to, that it would completely up and power the building. We'll have an electrical engineer look at it so we know how big, do we want it to run everything to include the air conditioning or just the heating and lights and that, and we'll look at that through this grant.
Perfect.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The main concern I had is that they have those disconnects, because PG&E don't like those very much when they get electric coming back to their lines. On the Dublin well, I thought that was a new well. Why do we gotta spend $100,000 on that sucker?
Good morning, Andrea Saldati.
I've heard this answer, so.
Oh, okay.
Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director, Madera County Public Works. Currently, we are doing some chemical cleaning of that well due to the changing water quality. It was a little bit unexpected, but they had the money in contingency, and so this is a routine budget adjustment to move that money into maintenance of the water system in order to be able to perform that.
So they're just gonna clean up the well to make cleaner water?
Yes, it's a chemical cleaning of the well.
Okay, so the well's still good and everything?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I care about. I think a brand-new well, we gotta spend $100,000 on it. Man, you thought the same thing.
Should have,
It's in your
when I
district.
got my first call.
Right. And then on O, same, the contingency to land, appropriations for contingency to land, I don't understand that statement. And does that mean you're gonna buy it, is it land? I mean, what's the rest of that sentence?
So this is a budget adjustment from appropriations for contingency to land. So there is an account just labeled land, and we are purchasing land for a permanent well site. Right now, we have a construction easement that we drilled a well on, and that is good to go. And so we will now enact our ability to purchase that.
Maybe we ought to put in a contingency to line item land or something, that just contingency to land does not make sense to me.
Okay.
And I'm a dumb Okie,
Or
so I don't know about
land-
other people that read it.
Land acquisition or land.
Purchase of land.
Okay, purchase of land,
Purchase of
whatever.
land, yeah.
It's just mixed up for me, so, that's all, boss.
All right. Any other questions on the consent calendar? See none, any public comment regarding the consent calendar? See none?
I'll make a motion for
close.
approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Madam
Is
Clerk?
that with the change in the?
Is that with the changes? Yes.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, and I know that our county clerk recorder has an appointment in Fresno, so we'll start with, oh, yeah, there you go. Sorry, Dennis was in the way.
Yeah.
So we'll start with 7I so that you can
7I?
get moving.
7I, County Clerk Recorder and Registrar of Voters. Introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 3.12 of Title III of the Madera County Code pertaining to documentary transfer tax. Waive the reading and set the second reading for December 10th, 2019.
I think that,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rebecca Martinez, Clerk Recorder, and with me is Jacqueline Luda, my recording manager, who probably knows more about the intricacies of this particular item. But this morning, what we're trying to do is establish some changes to the county code that refer to documentary transfer tax. At the end of the day, what we want to do is to propose amendments that will allow me to collect documentary transfer tax on those transfers that occur when the conveyance document itself has not been recorded. So there's lots of big corporations that make transfers or changes, and we don't collect the documentary transfer tax that belongs to the county. So we're talking about, and the law allows it now. There have been some test cases out there, legal test cases, where the counties have prevailed. So we would like the ordinance the county code amended so that we can collect those monies.
so good. Any questions? No. Any public comment regarding this item? See none, I'll call close the public comment.
I move to waive the reading and set the second reading for December the 10th.
We have a motion. And a second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Well, you've won for 2 weeks now, so you got to see how it
I'm going to
works
keep
out.
that streak up. Thank you.
Because I moved you to the front on December 10th, you'll be the last one on the agenda. I'm kidding. All right,
Unless you buy your line.
let's see, we got 10:30.
10:30.
Now we're almost at 10:30 for the public hearings, but let's do our proclamation. Let's go with 7A. Do you need the proclamation?
Yes, presentation of proclamation naming November 2019 as National Adoption Month. I got it, finally. Whereas the County of Madera acknowledges that every child deserves to grow up in a loving and forever family. And whereas from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, adoptions were finalized for 36 children in Madera County. Currently, adoption is the permanency plan for approximately 30 dependent children in Madera County. And whereas adoptive parents have a unique role by welcoming children into stable, loving families, providing a safe and comforting place for children in need to call home. And whereas November is celebrated across the nation to recognize these caring, devoted families who have opened their hearts and homes to make a difference in the life of a child, and to those professionals who are dedicated to finding families for children and youth who are seeking permanent homes. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera, State of California, does hereby proclaim November 2019 as National Adoption Month in Madera County and encourages all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and all others to celebrate adoption and honor families that make a powerful difference in the life of a child through adoption.
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Supervisors, Deborah Martinez, Director of Social Services. We have a photo that we'd like to present. Tatiana, do I need to trigger? Okay. So we always have an adoption celebration. Generally, we've done a proclamation, and then later in the month is our celebration. So while we will not picture children, I wanted you to see the great work that staff did in order to put this, what was it, fantasy or enchanted? I'm sorry, I say fantasy every time. Enchanted forest. There's a second picture. That's all the staff that is associated with administration and adoptions. And there's a second photo. So I was there, Chanel, in her butterfly. I think she did so beautifully. But Chanel Moore is our program manager that is over adoptions, and she's going to present her staff and also our infamous family with an adopted child that wants to speak as well. Okay? Excuse me.
Beautiful.
Chanel?
Good morning. Again, it was me, I was the black butterfly at that day. We count it an honor and privilege to be able to serve the community of Madera County and to work with a phenomenal staff that we have. We have our supervisor, Mee Wang, our adoption social workers, Laurel Barnett, Pua Zhang, and Vanessa Krager, and we have our outstanding family, Gerardo and Angela Garcia, along with their daughter, Leia. On the day that we had our adoption celebration, we finalized 3 adoptions on that date, but throughout the year, we have continued to bring children to families that they can call mom and dad forever, and we just would like to thank you for the opportunity to have this proclamation set on this date. We will continue to work with this outstanding community of families that we have and do our very best job.
Did you want to speak? Hi, Leah, did you want to speak? Hi, say hi.
Hi.
Oh. Oh, sorry.
We would just like to say thank you very much for Madera County Social Services, the Board of Supervisors, and every parent or every adopted parent that goes into this knowing that they are one chance to change a life. If you have your own children, we already have 4 biological children, 23 to 18, and now we've just adopted a 2.5-year-old. People say we're crazy, but the way I look at it is a second chance to show our bio children what it's like to be a parent the second time around, and getting it somewhat right. But also giving them the opportunity to go ahead and see the work it takes to get a parent or to be a parent and to help them get on the right foot in the future for their children in the future. But we want to say thank you very much.
Well, I know you, Gerardo and Angela, and I mean, your hearts are so big, and what you've done to the community. I know your 4 biological children well, and seeing what great adults they've grown into, I'm so happy that you're doing this for Leah as well. You guys are true community members that just care and give all that you have, and I just want to thank you personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah. I've known you a long time, and I'm just really proud for you. And I'm really happy for these children because I know they have a great mom and dad, which means everything, great family and a great future. And this is very near and dear to my family because my wife was adopted. And it means everything, that connection in the world with them. And, you know, they're starting almost fresh with the connection in the world globally. And one of the things that meant a lot to my wife was my realization that when we had our own children, that was her connection to the world. She doesn't have any living relatives that she knows of anywhere. And yet that connection with the world is in that family, that adopted family. And it's just like you were one of their own, one of their own. And yeah, you're crazy in love. Love is always crazy. It's a great thing. Thank you so much for what you're doing for these children.
And thank you for our staff for finding these people that have the heart to adopt and take
love your
them on.
job.
What you do, you know, beyond just saving money on other social programs because there's a loving home with a family unit, but you truly bring joy into the world of not just the children, but also the homes that you place them in. And we thank you for your diligence in that and your hard work.
You bet.
Thank you. All right, we'll come down and take a picture with this.
The artistry in terms of our decorations is led by our support staff. Great job. Great job. Always does an awesome job.
Carefully, there's a bunch of politicians who start kissing the baby. Glad I allowed the crying. That would have looked like a real jerk move up here had I not, right? So we'll go into 6A now. We're after 10:30. We'll start with our public hearings.
6A, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District Number 7, Marina View, Public Works Department, Administration Services Division. Consideration to adopt a resolution establishing increased water and sewer service rates and levying the increased rate within Maintenance District Number 7, Marina View, or if there is a majority protest, adopt the alternative resolution imposing a charge that will eliminate current violations of law found in a compliance order.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Akkad, Public Works Director. With me here is Ms. Andrea Saldati, our Deputy Director for Administrative Services. And you take it from here, Andrea.
Good morning. MD7 has not had a rate increase since 2008. Since then, we have seen rising costs for PG&E, staff, and just aging infrastructure. And MD7 is going through a compliance order with the state, and they are currently working out a permanent fix with State Water Resource Control Board. But in the interim, State Water Resource Control Board has approved a interim fix, which is point of use device, which is essentially a filtration system underneath everyone's sink. So in doing so, there is an additional charge of $58.60 to maintain that device for a 3-year period of time. 3 years is the maximum time that the state will allow these devices to be in place. In doing the rate study for the $58.60, it was also noticed that MD7's water operational rate, which is essentially the water system as a whole, was not keeping in line with expenses. And so their water rate currently is $39, and they roughly bring in about $37,000 from their water rate only. The district was noticed for both the operational rate and the point of use rate, and 90 property owners were noticed, and at this point in time, we have 41 valid protests against the increased rate. The letters that we received do indicate that they are only protesting the proposed water system rate, not the point of use rate. But in conversations with county council, any protest to a rate is a protest in whole. You cannot protest just certain pieces of a rate. So 41 valid protests. There are 6 invalid protests.
Why are they invalid?
3 are invalid because no property was referenced. There is no address or no APN number listed on those. 1 is invalid because it was the wrong APN number. It is actually an APN number that does not exist within Madera County at all. 1 was a duplicate, so one property owner submitted 2 protests, same exact protest letter. And then the 6th is invalid because there are multiple property owners, but only 1 vote per property, and so essentially 2 property owners voted, so only 1 was valid, 1 is invalid.
And so on that APN, that is counted in the 41 valid?
Yes.
But the second owner
is considered invalid. So with the 41 valid protests, 90 property owners were noticed. The district would have needed 46 protests in order to defeat the rate. So at this point in time, the rate is approved for your adoption.
So even if the 3 were, there was no property indicated and the 1 wrong APN, even if they were here today to provide that correct, that would still bring it to 45, not the 46 needed to?
Yes, that is correct.
Unless there was other ones that came in today as well, right?
As of right now, I have not received any.
We'll have a public hearing at that time. You can bring up whatever. Yeah.
As of this morning, I have not received any more written notices. This was just as of close of business yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, and we will have the ability to bring those during the public comment portion. Anything else?
That is it at this point.
So, but part of this was being able to, can you speak to the compliance order?
So the compliance order has a deadline of December 31st of this calendar year. And so the push, timing-wise, was to make sure that this rate was in place to be effective December 1st. That way we can issue a contract with a water provider, which is later on in your agenda to be approved. So he can start working as of December 1st to start installing these devices. As long as we are installing the devices, come December, the state will work with us on meeting the compliance order date.
And if they're-
Supervisor Wheeler? Yeah.
If they don't get started by December 31st, then they could be fined or something?
Potentially, there are fines to be levied as of January 1st,
Yeah.
but if the
If they
rate is
started
approved,
working on it.
as long as we are working on it, the state is hopeful to say that they will not impose the
Postpone till they're
liens
done.
as of January 1st. But the compliance order date, the return to compliance order date is December 31st of 2018.
Yeah, so if they
Supervisor.
are working on putting them in, they might not fine them,
It's a 3-year extension.
Yes,
most likely.
yes.
Your extension.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from the board? No? This is a public hearing. I'll now open the public hearing portion of the hearing.
I do have 10 additional protest letters. I matched up my list with the list that was posted online yesterday about noon. These are all not on that list, so I'd like to submit those to the clerk for consideration. Yes?
Yeah.
It's-
Honorable Chair, members of the board and staff, my name is Teresa Wilson. I live and own 37724 Shoreline Drive in Bass Lake. I'm also an MD7 Water Committee member. My comments are as follows. When we discovered in October of 2017 that the state grant was no longer available to us as our community did not qualify, our committee formed and worked diligently with county staff to come up with a solution that would both remedy the state compliance order and be financially feasible for our community. It has been an arduous process, yet we all remain steadfast with our eyes on the end result. There were many learning opportunities for us and the county along the way. We learned that we could come out from underneath the state's onerous requirements if we met the non-transient, non-community water system. We could avoid the costly centralized treatment system. Unfortunately, the survey sent out was confusing and not correctly filled out, and so we failed that test. We learned that AB 434 allows us to use RO systems, reverse osmosis, as a temporary solution that would also put us into compliance with the state. We successfully received 87% homeowner approval to proceed with this solution, and that is where we are today. Our homeowners want clean water. They also want a financially feasible solution which the RO systems provide. As Ken Farthsing pointed out, we are not in financial distress. As a district, we are financially solvent and, to my knowledge, have never been funded with general fund monies. On October 23rd in Oakhurst, I met with Supervisor Wheeler and Robert McCauley, his chief of staff. Supervisor Wheeler called Andrea to get some financial information. Here's what she shared. 2018 revenue received as a result of pre-Prop 13 monies received for our district was $59,475.29. And with the increase of property tax rates, which are expected to increase annually, we do not anticipate a drop, rather an increase in the pre-Prop 13 monies received. Road expenditures was $11,685. So to set out a reserve, we recommend allocating $20,000 to road maintenance and set this up as a line item showing the monies coming from the pre-Prop 13 monies. That leaves $8,315 to start a reserve for roads. Sewer is $68,606.15 and is self-sustaining with current rates and proposed CPI rates. So if $20,000 is set aside for roads and the sewer is self-sufficient, That would leave $39,475.29 to use as revenue for the water system. And we recommend adding that to the revenue line when calculating any future proposed water increases. Although the county has indicated that we must have reserves, we have not been advised as to what that required reserve percentage is, and as you know, we have monies in our account. We remain committed to work through the issues with the county staff and appreciate that this is a learning curve for us all. I want to thank you for your time. I know as a volunteer I have put in hundreds of hours, but it is my responsibility as a citizen to be engaged in the process that will have long-term effects on our quality of life as it relates to clean drinking water and the ability to afford the same. I love my community and work hard to support it in many ways. I hope the staff and the board recognizes the work this committee has put in to find a solution that satisfies all that is needed. I ask that my testimony be added to the record. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brian Cutler. I'm a resident in the Marina View MD7 district. I reside at 56380 Marina View Way in Bass Lake. I'm part of the committee, the water committee at MD7. I'd like to ask the board to separate out and approve the $58.60 per month fee for the point of view systems that we've worked so hard. I'm part of the test of the current system, and we're hoping for successful completion of that here shortly. We'd like to, of course, see that separated out from the overall budget of do the rate increase, but our committee also looks at the $71 per month that's been proposed by staff. And one of the things that we've learned in our committee and working with the staff is that $27,000 a year is included in that budget to fund the operation of a temporary generator to drive one of the wells, and so that we have sufficient water supply at MD7. This is a temporary cost. It's included in the budget that's going to be extended out over the years. I believe that this cost should be separated out. It's roughly 25% of the budget, and we send that out over a multi-year period. Our committee believes that this cost should be borne with the pre-Prop 13 monies, the revenue stream that's coming in annually, plus the reserves that exist. This should be used for these temporary type costs and any emergency situations. So we'd like to ask the board to send back to the staff this assessment, this $71 a month assessment to the residents for reevaluation. Our committee is more than happy to work with the staff and continue to work with the staff to come up with an actual assessment that's robust and that we can all agree upon, that makes sense and that we feel best meets the requirements and the operational expenses of the water system, and that the residents of MD7 agree with. We'd also like to, as our committee also supports the CPI increase for the sewer system. We feel that's absolutely fair. In addition, we appreciate the help that we've received in working with the staff and the continued support by the staff. And we look to the board to also continue their support to help us control the cost associated with operating our water system. It's expensive. Yeah, we understand that. And the system is old. We understand that. But we should also be utilizing funds that are available to support necessary temporary and emergency situations. Thank you very much. I'd like to submit this to the clerk in addition to my testimony.
You can give it to her if you want to, but she'll give it to him.
Honorable Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Ken Farsing. I'm the owner at 37702 Marina View Drive, Bass Lake. I wasn't sure of which co-owner Andrea might have been referring to, but I co-own the property with my sister. She submitted a protest, and I submitted a protest on Thursday. I have a copy of my protest. I don't know if that was your co-owner or not, but it should be counted as one protest. Now, I have some brief comments and available to answer questions. I'm also on the MD7 Water Committee, and I wanted to thank the staff and the board for working with the committee on our water issues. The installation of the reverse osmosis system, albeit temporary, will give us time to work on a reasonable permanent solution. But we do have a question on the county's reading of Proposition 218 and your own resolution 2019-045. Now, staff provided a written response to the committee's questions on the water rate increase on October 30th, and the committee proposed, we support the POU rate. It's necessary for compliance. The sewer system CPI is very reasonable. It's just the concern over the water operation rate, and that's why you see our protest letter makes those distinct arguments. Now, staff communicated to us, quote, under Proposition 218, if the rate is protested, it's protested as a whole. You cannot protest the components of that rate. And that's close quote. We believe this is a misreading of Prop 218. The protest notice clearly shows three rates: a sewer CPI, excuse me, a new rate to support the POU system, and an increase in the water operational rate. There's no disclaimer in your protest notice stating that ratepayers must protest a whole rate. And as indicated by Teresa, the state survey of the POU system reported 87% of our property owners support the POUs. When do you get 87% of anybody to agree on anything? Now, the POU rate is temporary, it's separate, and it's a distinct rate, and it's necessary for compliance with drinking water standards. We would like to see it shown on the utility bill that the county sends out monthly. You show sewer, you show water, you should show this POU rate because it's going to go away. Now, the board adopted Resolution 2019-045, establishing policies for maintenance districts that are no longer financially self-sustaining. As Teresa's indicated, we're not in that category. With our water and sewer revenues, our annual Prop 13 revenues, it's now at $62,000 a year, and our large reserve amounts, even if you subtract out some of the obligations for the reserves, we have over $200,000 in reserve. We don't rely on the county's general fund, thankfully. The board should adopt the new POU rate without relying on your resolution, since we basically support the new POU rate. You can also adopt the CPI for the sewer system. It's really not called out in one of your resolutions at all. Now, staff has retained a consultant to work with the committee on a comprehensive rate report. We support that as well. And I think there's two important pieces of information that will be used in the rate report. The first is going to be the outcome of this system classification survey. That's where we decide if we're a transient system or not. And then the second important information, if we're not a transient system, we're currently designing a treatment plant. And the cost estimate of that's going to be very important in setting future rates. So I think the facts that we look at, basically, when you adopt this new POU rate, you do a sewer CPI, and then defer on the water operational rate increase makes a lot of sense. We're available for questions, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Yeah, please come to the podium and state your name.
I was going to submit my letter. I'll go over here.
Yeah, you can put it right there.
My name is John Muqaddam, and I am one of the residents of Marina View, 56370 Marina View Place. I had no idea about how this gathering will be conducted. I do not have a written suggestion or so. Yeah. If it is okay,
you
I
can
have
talk like
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. This goes on the record anyway, because it's recorded.
Thank you so much. By profession, I used to be a teacher. I'm just retired, and I dealt with businesses for many years. My philosophy is that if you come to me with a problem, you'd better to have a solution too. I have a suggestion. I made this suggestion about 4 or 5 years ago. By the way, I bought the place about 7 years ago. Anyway, in one of the meetings, I mentioned this to one of the gentlemen who was involved with the water organization or so. And I don't think they paid attention. We are going to use reverse osmosis on a point of use basis, and later on we have to have a central one, which is going to be very costly. And the water from that is going to be used for everything, from taking shower to using in toilet and so on and so forth. I don't know what would be the cost associated with that. I have been around the Bass Lake a lot. I used to hike a lot. And I noticed that, as everybody knows here probably, that Bass Lake uses surface water. And the water comes from Angel Fall. There's a pipe that carries about, I believe it's 16, 17-inch pipe or so, that carries the water, and then, of course, I don't know exactly what they do, they use that, rather than using well water. Am I right?
No, sir, it's groundwater, fractured rock wells.
Right.
We don't use surface water for MD7.
Okay.
I think
Is
he's
it?
talking about
That would
Bass-
require
I think he's talking about Bass Lake Water Company. Is that?
Yes, yes.
Oh, if it's Bass Lake.
I'm talking about Bass Lake. And that satisfies a much, much larger population than Marina View. Thinking out of the box, trying to use possibly surface water for Marina View as well. If you go around, there's a flume that brings water from a creek, or a relatively large creek, to the Bass Lake and goes everywhere else, apparently. As an alternative, rather than relying on the well water, which is contaminated, which has problem, it would be, probably won't be a bad idea if someone from your office do some survey, some study of possibility of getting water from that creek, which is about 2 miles. Unlike the water that goes to the Bass Lake, which is quite steep, it's maybe about 700 to 1,000 feet elevation, which water comes down. And I've been there several times. I like to walk around, and I noticed that pipe is always broken. This creek that carries the water through the flume, it's graded very, very gradually. And possibly we can have a pipe that carries the water from there, and we won't be relying on the valves. And that water, it's going to be surface water, and dealing with that is going to be much, much safer and easier. Anyway, this is just a suggestion. I hope someone try to do some study on that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Is there any other public comment regarding this item?
Teresa Wilson, 37724 Shoreline Drive, Bass Lake. I just want to comment on John's comments. As you may or may not be aware, there's a Miller-Lux agreement that determines how the water is
I was just going to say
used at Bass Lake. Bass Lake Water Company does have access to Angel Falls, however, they cannot take surface water. The Merced Irrigation District and other entities have interest in the water that goes into Bass Lake. And so that, I'd like to save you some time. I don't think that that's a feasible opportunity for us. Thank you.
I'm just going to say all that water is already spoken
Yeah, it's
for.
usually adjudicated, and I see Stephanie shaking her head on some of the things. We can, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So-
MID, right.
So
MID owns all that water.
But John, to your point, I mean, anywhere where we can look to achieve and gain surface water rights, we want to do that. It is always
Right.
the best option if we can. So you are absolutely right in that.
It's a great idea. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
there's
great
no
idea.
problem with that. I mean, like down in Millerton with that subdivision down
Yeah.
there, they got it and they got the rights, but we don't have the rights on that water up there.
Is there any other public comment regarding this item? Are we going to need to extend the public hearing to vet the new County Council?
Chairman, I would recommend two options. One is either you can take a break while staff tabulates the ballots or the protests, or you can close the public hearing and then come back to the item for a full report of the tabulation later on in the agenda.
How long do you think the tabulation will be? I don't want to hold everybody up. If we just took a break, 5, 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
A break would be sufficient.
Okay, so a 5-minute break or 7? Want to split the difference? 6. Yeah, okay, 6. Good, thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
And
So we'll come
Chairman,
back at 11:10.
for the public hearing, did you want to close the public hearing or keep it open? I just didn't hear you close.
Let's, because any, yeah,
There
we'll
might be
just leave
some
it open.
question after they do the count.
Yeah, after the
You
count,
should
we'll have some
close the
questions.
public hearing before you tabulate the ballots, so, not the item, not the agenda item. The agenda item will take a
Just
break, but
the
close
public
the
hearing.
actual
I
public
will
hearing.
now close the public hearing, and then we'll take a break to 11:10, and then we'll have some board discussion and questions and a tabulation. All right, welcome back. Supervisor Wheeler, I believe you had some questions, or?
No, I said it when, I was just going to talk about the Miller Lux and the
Okay.
water, that's all.
Perfect. First of all, I want to thank everyone for that public comment. That was, I think, helped very well with solutions, coming together, working, not being completely together, but finding a way to get to there. So I just want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day. That was good, healthy public discourse. So thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. All right, so I'll let Andrea
So-
speak to the 218.
After going through the 10 additional written protests, 3 are invalid because they are duplicates. I did already count them in the 41 that we had previously received, 7 of which are valid. That takes the total to 48. So at this point in time, the rate in full is protested, and we would like to ask the board to adopt the second resolution that will enact a charge for the $58.60 to pay for the maintenance of the point of use treatment.
And can you explain why we can do that even though the 218 was defeated?
I think we will let county council answer that question.
Or can't?
Board members, hello, Dale Bacigalupi, County Council. The Prop 218 process that you've just been through arises under Article 13D of the Constitution, which is known as Prop 218. Article 13C, which is a separate part of the Constitution, allows you to impose a charge under a very limited set of circumstances, and that's one that you have here today. And that charge is a charge that's necessary to avoid a violation of the law. And since we have a compliance order that is due, as Andrea has
31st.
explained to you, you have the power without a vote of the people and without submitting it to a vote of the people under Article 13C to impose a charge that is, let's call it shrink-wrapped or sized just enough to take care of the compliance order. And that's what the alternative resolution does, and that's the authority for it.
Okay. Supervisor Wheeler?
Can you add the CPI to that?
No. No, you cannot.
Okay.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I was just going to explain that the gentleman had the question about the 218 separating out. Well, you'd have to separate out the vote in order to adopt those separately. That's why they can't do it that way. We can't determine what part of the protest is protested or not protested based on it not being separated out. So that's why it can't be done that way. That's the only reason. Otherwise, you could do it.
So in the future, like, why do we have it all together since there are two different funds? One is a fee that funds the sewer and one is a fee that funds the water system. In the future, should we just take them as individual systems? I know that's not the way it was written today, but, you know, we always learn, we always get better.
Yeah, there's probably a better way to improve the notice so that it avoids any kind of confusion, and we'll work with your staff to make that happen.
Yeah, this is probably the first time ever that government is finding out a way to not get a tax or a fee, right? I mean, that's pretty, so that means we're trying to definitely follow the law.
One other question I had.
Supervisor
You
Wheeler?
haven't taken it off yet, so.
Oh, yeah. I just always keep it up there.
Can we bill that separately, like, see, who asked that? Stan. The POU rate, can we separate that out?
Yes, it will be an individual charge on the bill, and it will be labeled as a point of use charge.
Okay.
So since, I had one more question on that too, to that point, because I think especially since we're putting it on, I would imagine it would have to go on individually. Does that only last for 3 years? If it needed to go further, would we have to then come back in 3 years, or?
Good question, and I was going to clarify that. Maybe they were going to clarify it too, but since my light's on, I'll just clarify it. You should know that in order to implement this POU charge, 100% of the property owners must sign a right of entry agreement that allows the county onto their individual property, and in some cases into their house, to maintain these units. And unless there is 100% property owner compliance, then the POU rate is all academic. And if the POUs cannot be installed except on 100% of the units. And
How long do they have to get 100% signed up?
A right of entry letter was sent out to all the residents, and they have until December 2nd to supply
December
those.
2nd?
Yes, to supply those back to the county.
You guys got some work with the other 13%, then it looks like.
Because then it goes away.
Mr. Chairman, the right of entry, this is to install
and
the
to
devices
maintain.
and also our routine maintenance of every device.
So how often is routine maintenance? Are we going in once a month?
We don't know.
Is that,
There is currently a pilot study going on within MD7 to see how frequent we need to be testing and changing filters. So at this point in time, we know for sure we're going to have to visit each home at least monthly to run testing. Filter changes, we're not exactly sure because there is more to find out through this pilot test period, which is 60 days.
are these going to be county employees going out to do that, or is this going to be or is this part of the contract for the installation and maintenance?
There is a contract on the board agenda as a later item for a company to do this for our operation and maintenance staff.
I've seen that on.
Yeah. I just thought that was an important point to make, so that.
And one of the contaminants your board is uranium, and that's a main concern of when do we change the filters, what's the contamination levels under your sinks.
Okay.
And this is all being studied and piloted as we speak. So.
All right, so this was defeated. Do we need to open another public comment for the second resolution, or has it already been
It
satisfied?
was all in one agenda item, Chairman.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
I move we approve the rate of that 58.50.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll keep working on the solution with all of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go to 7B.
7B, Assessor's Office, presentation of the first Assessor's Office Annual Report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gary Savanda, Madera County Assessor. The Assessor's Office collects and keeps current some of the most valuable information available to local elected leaders, business people, ranchers, and farmers. Understanding the value changes in residential, commercial, and agricultural land and the improvements we place on that land gives us a sense of the economic health of our county. The prospects for growth, and it can be an indicator of potential problems that should be addressed. Our office has decided that we will attempt to summarize this information and make it available in an annual report. Each year, following the completion of our tax roll activity, we will update the information and make available first to this board and the appropriate staff, but also to the city councils and the administration of the city of Madera and the city of Chowchilla. Additionally, this year, we will deliver copies to Mr. Bobby Kahn of the EDC, the Madera Farm Bureau, MID, and Eastern Madera County Chambers of Commerce.
Beautiful.
It is our hope that these agencies might use this information to make better budget projections and operational plans for the future. This is our first attempt. And we understand that the value of the document needs to be enhanced each year. First of all, my thanks to the two people standing with me who are responsible for the creation and the successful completion of this project, and that would be Veronica Ramirez and Alyssa Castaneda. It was their creativity and hard work that made this possible. We would like to deliver you the first copies and answer any questions you might have. Again, this is our first effort, and we will attempt to improve our work each year. It will be posted on our website, and we have additional copies available through a local printer if necessary. So at this time, if the ladies might pass out copies, would like you to see our first work product. And again, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Good. When I first saw this, I thought that you had gone back to our first assessor's report just to show how far we've come since 1893. No, I think especially anybody that has dealt in the city government too, making decisions without this kind of information is very hard. What a great tool to use for all those different agencies to know where they're at, to project for the next year. So I'm just assuming it'll be about right now, so they'll have 6 months to look at budgeting, and it's a good timing. What a great idea.
Again, the information has always been there. We just needed a couple of creative and energetic people to put it together, hopefully in a way that tells our story, tells the information, but lends the ability to question all of our supervisors' names, contact information is there. If they want to drill down and get additional information, it tells them who to contact, and we're happy to provide that. I think it is things that will benefit not just the county, but our cities and the other governmental agencies. And since we propose to enhance the intergovernmental relations, potentially this is another step in that direction.
Absolutely.
Very well
Good job,
done.
Eric.
Very
Good
well
job.
conceived, and excellent job, ladies. Stepping forward to a new time. Very well done.
Thank you. And again, after you've had chance to peruse, if you have any questions, either pick up the phone or send me an email, and we'll address them.
Oh, Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah.
Has already
I just-
perused it.
Yes, sir.
Colvin, I just want to thank you first of all. I talk about these different things all the time, and I don't have this stuff that I can refer to now. And, if every county did this would make a good relationship to see where we stand amongst the rest of them in the state. I mean, we're always saying we're number one here or then top 10 there and what have you. Something like this would really help.
Many counties do produce something in the line of an annual report, but it's normally the big counties, Santa Clara, Ventura, LA, San Diego. I thought it was time for Madera County to step into that realm.
Thank you for your great leadership, and I think this would be a good thing to put in the CSAC next year. Or I don't know if it's too late this year for one of our accomplishments, so.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Gary, a lot of people in the public think that we keep the whole dollar, which isn't true. It's dispersed with a lot of entities. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
They left with a smile on their face. You like that, huh?
All right, 7C.
7C, County Administration Department, Manzanita Lake Planning Unit. 1, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with an enhancement funding agreement with the Pacific Forest and Watershed Land Stewardship Council for grant funds in the amount of $502,882 for a grant period ending December 31st, 2021, and authorize the chairman to sign. Discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue, number 19-057, in the amount of $502,882. Discussion and consideration of entering into a sponsor agreement with the California Conservation Corps and authorize the chairman to sign. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving a tax neutrality agreement for the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit project, authorizing the chairman to sign and the board clerk to record the agreement.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Mary Ann C., Special Projects Manager. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce colleagues that you're already familiar with, Mr. Bill Hayter, Tristan Champ, and Maria Miranda. In concert, particularly in the last several months, we've worked on the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit, which is what's before you today. It's been before you several times over the course of the last decade, and what we're going to narrowly focus our presentation on today are the 4 recommended actions before you. Your board letter consisted of a little bit more history, just to provide that backdrop of foundational knowledge of when we started. The county started in 2011. When I say we, I mean Bill and Tom and Maria and people who were around at that particular time. So I'd like to start by saying that there are 2 separate but equally important processes happening at once. They're both coming to fruition at the same time. One is the actual land acquisition of 146 acres of land up in the North Fork area by the Manzanita Lake property. The other is entering into an agreement. We actually received grant funding from the Stewardship Council and all the associated actions.
Can I change that a decade? I actually started this 15 years ago when PG&E went bankrupt the first time.
Oh, right in time for the next time to
Put
go
a decade and
bankrupt.
a half on you. I just happened to bring it to the board, that's why I got elected, so.
That's right. The whole process of PG&E needing to divest themselves of properties for the purposes of stewardship and recreation started in 2004. The county jumped into the game in 2011, but I understood you were part of that much earlier. So thank you for your leadership. excuse me, there are 4 very specific items recommended today. Over the course of the last several years, particularly the last 2, you've taken and voted on many items. Recommended before you today is entering into an enhancement funding agreement. This is the grant that we actually did get for $502,882. This was with the Pacific Forest Watershed Lands and Stewardship Council, which we refer to as the Stewardship Council for the remainder of our brief presentation. Approval of RUR number 19057, which is the associated RUR. Approval of a sponsorship agreement with the California Conservation Corps, and approval of a resolution approving a tax neutrality agreement for the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit. On to the enhancement grant. Bill spent quite a bit of time preparing and working across several different partner groups to submit and finally get approved in this last September for $508,882 for the enhancement of the 146-acre property that we will close on here in the near term. To receive this funding, it is essential that we enter into this funding agreement and that the associated RUR number 19057 is also approved. The grant shall commence upon, thank you, executing the agreement, and will expire on December 31st, 2021, or when all funds are expended, whichever comes first. The scope of the work outlined essentially can be boiled down to 4 major categories. Fuels reduction, which obviously in that area is a special importance. Habitat protection, recreation for the general public, and then also to preserve and maintain historic cultural sites. The CCC, the California Conservation Corps, will be doing the bulk of some of the fuels reduction and work for us. In order for us to enter into a contract with them, we need to enter into a more generic sponsor agreement. This is what's before you today. If approved, staff will bring back, and we'll work with CCC and bring back a more detailed scope of work and budget for your consideration, hopefully at the 10th or 17th of December. The final item for your consideration this morning is a tax neutrality agreement with the Stewardship Council. They must ensure that any donation does not adversely impact the local tax revenue. So they'll be making a one-time payment of $78,851 to the county to offset lost tax revenue. The payment itself has to be distributed among special districts and local agencies, and it is estimated that $11,400 will go to the general fund.
Just real quick, boss. That just,
That's proof, yeah.
that right there proves how we don't, like Max said, I guess it was, that we don't get every dollar. So
That's
that right
right.
there is a prime example of all we get for our property tax dollars.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Some of our next steps, as I indicated, we're very close to closing on escrow. At one point, we had the date set as the 12th of December. It's moving a little bit, and there are a few details that need to be worked out before we actually close. We're still hoping that it's accurate to say that we will close in December of 2019. Final inspections need to occur, and then PG&E does need to provide us with property that's free of some of the debris and detritus that we've found on the property here recently. We need to execute those remaining agreements. We weren't exactly sure if it was one or two different agreements, but with the California Conservation Corps that will detail the scope of work and budget. And then we want to be clear, your team wants to be clear that we will continue our pursuit of outside grant funds, other revenue sources, partnerships with groups for the continued development of the property, not development as in hotels, as is written in the grant, and also for the ongoing operations and maintenance. As you'll note in your board letter, there have been shifts over the last decade. So with that, we have a team here that's been on the project for a long time. We'll be able to answer your questions. I hope it's clear what 4 items you're voting on this morning.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the board for taking this over in 2011. What happened in 15, 18 years ago when PG&E filed bankruptcy, the courts ruled they had all their excess land had to be given to public entities. And so we, as chairman of the Corsico Resource Conservation District, I took it to our board and we all agreed that we should go after, actually there was 5 pieces along the Willow Creek above Bass Lake and below, go down to San Joaquin River. Every time we get close to a piece of it, they would take another piece out. And this particular piece started out as 400 acres. And with FERC and all their other things that they figured that they needed, they took it down to this 178 or whatever it ended up. So when it got down to the nitty gritty with the Corsico Resource Conservation District to take it over, the Stewardship Council was put together by PG&E and the courts to do all this funding for these different projects all the way across the state. They didn't think the Corsico Resource Conservation District had a good enough history of dollars to be able to maintain that over the years, and that's when I brought it to the board and to see if you guys would approve taking it over. So thank you again for doing that, and that's kind of the history of it. That's the only piece that's going to be given away by PG&E in Madera County after, I don't know, Bill, do you remember, was there 12 pieces total altogether, or 14?
There were a dozen pieces, and there were a lot of players after them.
Yeah, everybody was after them, the tribes, everything else, different entities. And so we ended up, and those dollars we're getting is minor compared to what they promised us even 2 years ago. Every year they've been deducted. That Stewardship Council is funded like $10 million a year by the PG&E to do these projects. And to me, I've told them personally, they know how I feel about it. They have blown millions of dollars, and every time they postpone us getting this property, they spent more of their money and didn't have none to give us. So it should have been a lot more than that, and they should have done a lot more work than they're doing on it, but it's still a free piece of land that we'll have some park area up there that people can use.
Is there any public comment on this item? 7C. Seeing none, I'll call close to public comment.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second from Supervisor Rodriguez.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you,
All right.
gentlemen.
7D, and then after 7D, we'll probably have only enough time to take one more before the break, so I think we'll go to the 7G. I think that's what most people are here for, so we can send you back up the...
7D is what we're doing next?
Yeah, we're going to do 7D and then 7G.
Okay.
And then we'll go to lunch.
County Administration Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving a joint community facilities agreement between the County of Madera and Shawanaki Unified School District pertaining to the Preserve at Millerton project.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. The item before you today is to approve a resolution to authorize the chairman to execute a joint communities facilities agreement with Shawanaki Unified School District. The history of this involves a fire mitigation agreement that required the developer of the preserve at Millerton to provide funding for 2 FTEs of firefighters to be stationed at the project. The master developer has opted to fund this through a services special tax through a CFD, and the CFD will be formed by Chwaniki Unified School District, which thereby creates the requirement for us to sign a JCFA, a Joint Communities Facilities Agreement with them. The resolution will also approve and authorize, the resolution will authorize the chairman to sign the JCFA, but also authorize staff to review and approve RMA language that will be part of the formation. The maximum services special tax rate will be based on the current, or what the current 2 FTE costs from CAL FIRE will be, since we contract fire protection services from CAL FIRE. There is also a provision included that will be included in the RMA that will allow the county at its discretion every 5 years to reduce this tax if such a time that there's sufficient tax increment is collected that will fully cover all services, including the 2 FTEs for fire protection services.
CPI.
The CPI is already in there and that's separate, but it does allow for 5 years for the county at its discretion to review it and to basically reduce the assessment, so that way residents aren't overtaxed when we're 15 years down the road and there's enough increment to cover everything that the community is impacting, you know. And with that, we're available for questions.
Good to me.
Yep. Is there any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion, bring it back to the board for action.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second from Supervisor Rodriguez.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, 7G, and this will be the last item before going to lunch.
7G, Board of Directors, Special District, County Service Area 21, Casadel Woods Public Works Department. Discussion and direction in regards to the dissolution of CSA 21, and consider the survey results with respect to the county-owned property located within Casadel Woods, and direct staff on how to transfer titles as it relates to the dissolution.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Alqiyad, Public Works Director. The County Service Area 21 was created in 1984 and formed by LAFCO Resolution 84-8 for the sole purpose of initiating a fee to manage a recreational facility. In 1998, the district-wide vote established the assessment of $100 per year per parcel to perform the necessary maintenance to the clubhouse and the surrounding open area. These funds are not to be used for other activities performed by the Cascadel Woods Property Owners Association. Here to note, the LAFCO formation of this county service area stated, the resolution stated, the county intends to contract with the Cascadel Woods Property Owners Association, let's call it CWPOA moving forward, to manage, operate, and maintain said property and to restrict usage of such property to residents of the CSA 21. The CSA 21 does not maintain roads or any other infrastructure or facilities, nor does the CSA 21 provide water or sewer or any other services. The sole purpose of this recreational district is to collect funds for the CWPOA and disperse funds to the CWPOA as needed for maintenance of the recreational facilities. All maintenance of the clubhouse and open space, they were conducted with the CWPOA under contract with Madera County. These contracts were later terminated in February 2013. So, with the cancellation of the contracts and the resignation of the Municipal Advisory Committee, the MAC, CSA 21 is unable to function under its government structure as created by LAFCO. County staff does not provide recreational services. As a result, the existing structure of the CSA 21 as a county service area is insufficient to allow it to continue to provide this service. These existing operational limitations now require the CSA to pursue alternative government structure. Staff surveyed the residents within CSA 21 with several options of modifying the existing governance of the district. Option 1 was to formally dissolve the district and transfer assets to the CWPOA, who would provide the services. Option 2 was to dissolve the district and the county would solicit bids for interested parties and ultimately sell assets to other entities. Option 3 was to dissolve the district and create an independent special district, such as a community services district, or a CSD, or the recreational and parks district. The new entity would be created by LAFCO, operate independent of the county, and be governed by a board of directors elected by the residents and registered voters, and or the property owners within Cascadel. So, again, with the resignation of the MAC, the termination of the contracts with the CWPOA, the Madera County staff does not provide recreational facilities. Staff recommends formal dissolution of the district. Your board may choose to transfer title in several different ways. This direction will be needed for LAFCO to process the dissolution of the district. Staff recommends that your board dissolve CSA 21, give direction to staff to proceed with your preferred option with respect to the county-owned property located within Cascadel Woods, and direct staff on how to transfer title as it relates to the dissolution. With your direction, staff will bring a resolution of intent of the dissolution to your board at the next available meeting to begin the LAFCO process. Also, I turned in a handout to your board and council and the CEO and the clerk of the board, which just give you an indication of the survey results for those who elected to reply or respond. Gentlemen, do you have?
Oh, I do.
Ladies, okay. So as you see, we have less than 50% of the residents responded, with the two most popular options are option 1, which is dissolve and assets go to the CWPOA, and option 3, which is dissolve and create parks or a recreational district. And also, we have a few votes that were not votes. I'm going to correct myself. These are just survey. These are just opinions. Just to give you an indication of how things are moving within the community. But it is up to your board's discretion of how to proceed. With that, I have.
You said you had questions?
No, I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
After many, many years of going over this problem, I guess, problem child, I guess, up there at Cascadel, and trying to decide what to do, which I suggested a few years ago in a public hearing, that we should just sell it to a developer and let them decide what they want to do with it. I don't think either side wanted that. So I think after talking to staff a lot and talking to some of the residents up there, I think our best bet, first thing, we got to get out of that. I don't want county to be part of that up there. I would rather go to LAFCO and try to form a Parks and Recreation District and let them, LAFCO approve it or not approve it, and then go to the people and they can handle it the way they want to, and if they need more money to run it, they can vote it in. Totally independent of us. We don't have to do nothing with it. Or put it in a conservation easement, and I don't know whose names that would be in and who would be under, but I've talked to Sierra Foothill Conservancy and they would be interested in running it, but that takes a longer process. I think making a Parks and Recreation District, I think, I can remember what his name was. It was Lonnie Cornwell's father-in-law who developed that. I'm blank at the moment. But
Who would run the parks? district?
They would elect their
so
own
They
board.
would elect their own board, just like,
Own
like
board.
a CSD, like a,
Yeah,
on the path.
like a
that-
CSD,
Yeah.
and they would run their own board, and they tax their own self and do what they want to. They'd be independent of us, nothing to do with us. If they wanted to make any
Elections,
changes, they go to LAFCO. And I'd like Dave, if he would maybe explain that process to everybody, why he's here, our director of LAFCO.
Dave?
Supervisors, Dave Braun, Madera LAFCO. The proposal that Supervisor Wheeler proposed, what we would need to do is we would need to dissolve the CSA 21, and then we would need to form some kind of special district, whether it be a parks district or whatever kind of special district was chosen. So we would have, it would be a two-part process. We would dissolve the CSA and then form a new district. And that would be processed through LAFCO.
So is there a possibility that once, if we dissolve the CSA, even though we thought that it should go to a CSD, that it could just become like a special district that we're in charge of, or no?
We wouldn't be.
I just want to make sure that.
Right.
Yeah.
We'd be out of it, right?
There, I mean, in your report, there were some different options. Now, if it were, say, one option was to go to that homeowners association, if that were to occur, LAFCO cannot dissolve a district and then have a succeeding district be a non-public district. So if that was the idea, you would dissolve the CSA, and then the county then would retain the assets, and the county would be the successor district in essence, and they would then go out and look for some other entity, whether it be the homeowners association or whatever it may be,
conservation.
to take over that
So we'd
that
still be part of it.
responsibility.
And I'd rather just dissolve us of that problem and let the neighbors up there take care of their stuff. And if they want to rebuild that clubhouse, they can raise the money to raise it. Nothing to do with us. Isn't that right?
Yes, if you could get that special district formed, that CSD or whatever formed, then the county would essentially be out of the operations, out of that issue.
So would the county petition the LAFCO to bring that forward? How would that work?
Well, the county can definitely propose to dissolve the CSA. And forming the CSD, we would definitely have to get the neighborhood involved, because they're going to be having to take over that district. They're going to have to appoint board members, and so there would have to be a lot of involvement with the community to get that moving.
Would LAFCO do that, part of that? That part?
Yes, that would all have to be done through LAFCO, and we would have to get some kind of an application from the neighborhood to propose to create that district.
Could we give that petition for you, the board, while we have it?
You could propose it, we would, but the citizens would have to, there would have to be some outreach to the
No, we'd
community.
have to have public
Yeah.
hearings with them, right?
Yeah.
And we could have the hearing up there, couldn't we, like we done other LAFCO meetings?
Yes, yeah, we could have the hearing up there.
Town hall at the school.
I don't know, North Fork or somewhere up in that area, yes.
Supervisor?
So if we dissolve it, then we become the successor agency. So now we don't have a CSA, and then everyone votes against wanting to go towards a CSD, then we can be stuck owning the property?
Well, yes, then you would have there would be options. You could go try to do the CSD. You could also try to get the homeowners association to take over the assets, the property.
So we could petition for the CSD, But if the people vote that, is there a possibility that they could?
What kind of vote would that
down?
be?
Yes, I mean, they could vote it down. There's protest provisions, I believe it's 25%. If you have 25% of the property owners protesting, then it kicks it into an election. And then if you have an election, if you have a majority of the residents, majority of the voters or the property owners protesting, then it would kill it. So it likely would be a thing where it could be dissolved in one step, and then the creation of the CSD, that may take some time, and that may come, it may take some time to accomplish that.
You can't do them hand in hand, side by side?
Well, we could if the neighborhood, if the residents are ready to proceed, yeah.
You talk to them on a regular basis, how do they feel?
It's 50/50
Association.
probably. It's, there's about half that don't like it and half does,
Half
so.
and half.
So that's the whole problem. We're never gonna win this. It's been doing it. I went to the first big meeting about a year before I got elected, and it's been battling ever since.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. So, all right, so thank you very much, David. We may have some more questions, but I'll open it up to public comment at this time.
I have to do that.
Yeah, I would too.
I feel like I'm on The Prisoner. Have you ever seen that, The Prisoner? Hi, I'm Mark Stamas, 59743 Cascadel Road, North Fork. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for your service. A couple points. I sent a letter by email. Did you guys get it, Lloyd Carter? Great, don't need to beleaguer that. One point that I wanted to make was that at its simplest, we pay $100 a year to preserve our park lands. If you look on your tax bill, it says park lands, $100. It's a killer deal. We got beautiful 45 acres loaded with ARC sites, and we enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much how most residents look at it. New buyers up there, they're told they have access to this park for $100 a year. Okay, it was a front for a private corporation. It never was a front for a private corporation. I don't know this, but I would expect that a special district being a front for a private corporation is probably some sort of violation. But anyway, and the proof of that, of course, is the record. You can obfuscate records easily, and it's being done by multiple parties right now, trying to spin it to a certain result, like this district doesn't serve its purpose anymore, which is a false statement. The truth is the district was formed to preserve the open space, and then contracted with a private corporation to provide operation and maintenance of any facilities on it at its entire and complete expense. And that's a key point that I've brought up many times. The deal was, the POA would fund everything. And somehow, it didn't happen that way. There's a name I might mention that is part of why that didn't happen, Bob DeWall. And the whole thing just became a muddied mess. So now you have a community that believes the land belongs to this private corporation. Most of the residents are allowed to believe that, and I say allowed, meaning certain special interests want people to believe that we have an HOA, that it has land, and so on and so forth. But the reality is we paid $100 a year to preserve this open space. So here we are today, solutions. I like Wheeler's ideas. The key, I think, is that privatization would be a mistake. Because once you privatize it, you have disenfranchisement, you have no longer equal representation of everybody. You have this group, it's a voluntary group. If you don't choose to participate, now you don't have a voice, well then you should participate, blah, blah, blah. It's a classic HOA conundrum, which is going on all over the country all the time. So some sort of public entity makes sense to me. If it's locally governed because you guys are just so sick of us, and I don't blame you, I don't blame you at all, then that makes sense. So some sort of public entity that keeps our open space preserved. And it's a tribal asset too, so possibly the North Fork Rancheria Mono Indians could get involved. There's so many rich sites there, and we lost our sort of guardian angel in Galen Lee when he died in July. Anyway, that's kind of all I have to say. Whatever you do, please keep it public. Don't give it to some private entity.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
It would be public if it was a.
Well, let's keep.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, gentlemen, and board. Just to clarify a couple of things. Sorry while I gather my thoughts here. And if I look like I'm grimacing, I got a pinched nerve in my back, so it's not just you. For starters, the CSA 21 was formed to loan money or for the repayment of money loaned to the district to purchase the property on behalf of the Cascadel Woods Property Owners Association. That's stated in the contracts. I have copies right here for you folks to review if you'd like. In fact, the original contract, I don't have it here in front of me, states exactly that, for repayment of the loan. After 10 years, when the loan was repaid, for whatever reason, the property was never transferred into the ownership of the POA. And that may be because of the district. And at that time, they voted the district to start maintaining the property, or they voted to continue the district just for the maintenance of the property, because it seemed to be working. And quite frankly, it worked for 25 years. It was great. The county collected the funds. The POA performed the work. They would submit a bill. They'd get reimbursed, and it worked great. I don't want to bring up a lot of bad history. Some folks tried to create an RMD, and shortly thereafter, for whatever reason, they decided to terminate the contract with the POA. They also, at that same time, tried to force the POA to pay another $10,000 in bills that they decided 20 years in some case after the fact that the POA should not have been paid for this. Things like a 20-year-old generator that never worked after we got it. It was purchased from a supply warehouse. And I know you all know about this because when we went into small claims court to collect the rest of the fees that were due to us after the termination of the contract, and when many of those fees were basically countered and discounted by the then current controller, we went to court. We recovered all of those fees as legitimate, and when the $10,000 or so of extra add-on fees that the county was claiming we owed them, the judge summarily dismissed all of those claims. So this has been a bit of a political mire for our entire region, and all we want is we want it back the way it was. Nobody had a problem before 2012, well, except for a couple, and unfortunately, they have been able to influence either this board, the county, people within the county, I don't know who, but it's created a big, big problem. All we want is our property back to where it should be, where it should have been, and what was the original purpose. This is tantamount to the same thing as your bank saying, we loaned you money for the house, you paid it all back, and now we own your house. This is a common area. It was a common area before the district took over, owned by the corporation who created the district, or sorry, that created the subdivision, and then they decided they were going to build. When those people decided they were going to build other things rather than have a nice open space as they had promised, the residents got together, went together with the county, and this was the resolution. This was the solution to the problem, which was the county would fund the loan so that we could purchase the property and maintain that as an open space for the community. Quite frankly, we asked for several years for the county to just renegotiate the contract with the POA. You take care of it again.
Yeah, we can just wrap it up because the 3 minutes is up.
You sure can. You gave my counterpart a long leeway. Thank you. Yeah. So that is the bottom line. Now, if you can transfer the assets back to the POA, then what's the difference between a CSD and a POA? Everyone in that area has the right to be a part of the POA and may vote and have their vote counted just as well as they can if it's a CSD. And a CSD, as you all well know, is not going to be nearly as efficient as a local, community-run association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I missed his name for the record.
Oh, if you can state your name again for the record.
I'm sorry. Ken Wood. Would you like my address?
Just Madera County is fine, yeah. Thank you, Ken. All right, is there any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Carol Egging. I hope you're all doing well today. What point I need to make here is simply, in 2016, November 1, regular meeting of the board, your board and Public Works Department tried to find that the CSA parcels were an asset of the county. They all agreed and confirmed with Eric Fleming that they could not make those parcels a county asset. You can read it up. I can even tell you what minute to look at it. So how is it if the parcels of CSA are not a county asset that you can even think about selling it to anyone? Why is it not our asset? We, the people of, the residents of Cascadel Woods from 84 to 95 paid for that property through an assessment, through the county service area on their property tax bill. That's the whole reason that the CSA was created, was to pay back the loan that Madera County supervisors took from a fund. They loaned it directly to LAVCO, not to the CWPOA. It states on the record that the loan went from Madera County to LAVCO for the purchase of property to be held in a CSA for the people of Cascadel Woods. Now, there has been a judgment 17985, which puts an easement right for every person in Cascadel Woods. We have this easement right on that property. So I don't know that it could be sold. And as the properties are listed now, I believe mostly they are open space. I guess it can be rezoned at any time by you. I don't know how that all works. But I just wanted to bring those up just in case. I can give you copies of all kinds of documents, even have an escrow document that shows the buyers, Cascadel Woods. They were signed by the president, then I think his name was Ron Smith, and Cindy Curtis, the secretary. They were listed as the buyers of this property. Never did it say LAVCO or Madera County as the buyers. I don't know how this all got messed up, but I'm just throwing it out there that maybe somebody could do a little more research, and I don't know. I'm just trying to, that's stuff I've seen through going back through the records in the offices and stuff. So
Thank you, Carol.
thank you for listening, folks.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call a close to the public comment portion. Bring it back. Oh.
I'm sorry. Can we hear what the vote count was?
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, they're not votes, they're surveys.
For the survey, option number 1 got 33 votes, option 2, 5, option 3, 26, none of the above, 6. There was 72 responded out, and 81, there was no response. So about 48% of the residents up there responded.
So 52% don't care. That's the bottom line. That's the way I took it.
Yeah.
I directed staff to send it out again. That's the reason I wanted it out twice. Hopefully we'd get more participants, but we didn't, so.
So, yeah. So County Council, what is your opinion? Have you read the documents of who the land was bought for, who owns it? What is your opinion on that?
My opinion on that is that it is a county-owned asset. It was purchased by by assessments on behalf of the district, and that's where the asset lays. That's why all the options presented to the residents were to dissolve and provide them back to the residents that live there. And so it wouldn't be, we have done a lot of research if Ms. Egan wants to provide those documents, but it's simple, it's similar to a concept of the sheriff's office buying patrol vehicles, using taxes of the people, and we don't return those vehicles once they're out of service. We don't return the actual asset back to the individuals that help purchase it. And so we've looked, and if you look at the recorder's office, it is in the name of the County of Madera.
So, David, you had a question. I'll remember mine.
Yeah, this all seems to be very convoluted here. A lot of opinions and ideas and thoughts, but ultimately what's in the record is what we have to go by. And if that indeed is a county asset, there are some very strict rules that apply to that then as far as dissolution. That's going to be a process. And I do have some concerns about how was the fee, the $100 a month that Mark spoke about, how was it collected, under what auspice?
An assessment was
It
the
is
Prop 218
a tax
assessment.
on the
Yes.
tax bill.
Yeah, on the
Yes.
tax bill.
So, and how long has that been collected?
Since
It was formed, and it hasn't ever been raised, and so.
In 1998.
So all the residents of that CSA have been paying that $100 a month for, since its inception.
Correct.
So, Supervisor, if I may, the assessment was voted on in 1998, which is $100 per parcel per year, and with that is for
maintenance
and of the clubhouse and the open grounds.
Okay.
I have a question for the POA. Is this so this wouldn't be an HOA that everybody has to belong to if you live in it? Is it a voluntary?
It was originally, but the CCNRs ran out in 1985.
Okay.
So not everybody pays this $100 fee?
No, so everyone pays the $100 fee to the CSA, but not everybody is a member of the POA, and they're not compelled to be a member of the POA because the CCNRs. So
there's two different $100.
So, to ensure that everybody has their piece of it when if it's indeed dissolved, to make sure that everybody, regardless of their opinion or having no opinion, that they still have interest in it as a open piece of land. Taking it from a CSA to a CSD still allows everybody to vote in how that is, regardless of politics.
And it'll still be available for every single person.
And everybody could run for that board regardless of what side of the argument they're on. Is that correct?
That's the recommendation is option number 3, which with your direction, if that's your choice, you can direct me to start the process with LAFCO of the dissolution. And if we create this community service district, then the county is hands-off, basically.
And you're right, Chairman, LAFCO would work with the residents, as Mr. Braun mentioned, to consider their own election of a board of directors and consider which assessment they would like to place on themselves to continue to run that district. Whether it's $100 or something more or less, would be the process. And so if we went down that road, then it would be transferring the district property off the county books to a separate public agency that would run themselves. Not CSD, right? But from a public to a public agency.
And they'd all have access to it, they'd all be part of it, and they can all vote themselves how they want to do it.
Tom, or anyone else have any questions?
Okay, I'll make a motion to, it won't let me do it.
That's fine, yeah. It's okay.
Oh, it won't let me vote either, so. I'll make a motion to move forward with dissolving the CSA 21 and forming a Parks and Recreation District through LAFCO.
We have a motion and a second.
Have staff bring it back to us.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, I know I said that was going to be the last one, but I realize you probably stayed for K and L. We've already pretty much discussed a lot of this too, but we'll run through it, open up public comment. If there's anything else you want to add, great. If but they're the options that we discussed, right? Just finalizing it. Is that correct?
Well, you better
Are
read.
you mentioning item K? I didn't hear you.
K and L.
Why don't you just go ahead and
K?
let her read in,
Yeah.
we got to read it in 7K, so.
7K, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District Number 7, Marina View. 1, discussion consideration of entering into an agreement with Hague Quality Water of Central California, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $219,215 for installation, lease, and operation of point-of-use systems in MD7 for a 3-year period and authorize the chairman to sign. 2, discussion consideration of approval to authorize Public Works Director to issue the notice to proceed. 3, discussion and consideration of approval to authorize auditor controller to issue payments for contingencies up to 10% of the contract award amount per established county policy. 4, discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Public Works Director to solely issue and approve contract change orders in accordance with the Public Contract Code, not to exceed authorized contingencies.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ahmad Al-Kayat, Public Works Director. With me is Andrea Saldate, Deputy Director for Administrative Services, and our Deputy Director for Engineering Services, Mr. Jared Carter. This is a follow-up to item 7.
This is that.
6A.
6A.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and with that, I'll give it to Mr. Carter.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Jared Carter. So this contract is with Hague Quality Water to provide the point-of-use systems that would be installed in the residence at MD7. I think it was mentioned earlier that we have a pilot study going with 3 of the residents right now. So essentially, this contract covers the remainder of installing 80 more units, as well as the ongoing maintenance, testing, and sampling. I do want to point out one thing that we do need to, we will need to, I guess, change out here. The very last page of the contract, the description that's in that portion, which is for the testing. We were notified this morning from the company that there's a typo in that, so that we need to change that. It won't change the price or anything on the contract. It's just the description of what those services are going to be.
Any questions?
Nope.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, that we have to have entry permission. So if that doesn't happen, this all goes away.
That's correct. We will enter into this agreement if we do not receive the 100% approval for right of entries. Then we will not be able to proceed with the installation of this. And there has been some discussion. I will say there has been some discussion with the state about how we can try to potentially work on the schedule of that if we don't receive all those by the 2nd. But we haven't really been able to confirm all that yet. So at this point, we're just trying to get the contract in place.
Phase the work in, get the.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
Great.
100% of
Any other
anything.
questions? If not, I'll open this up to the public. Any public comment regarding this item?
Yes, Ken Farsing with the MD7 Committee. First, thanks for taking this out of order. We're committed to work with staff to get the 100%. We did the state survey, and 87% of the property owners basically said they're ready to move forward. And I think you're starting to receive the right of entry agreements as we speak. So we'll work on the holdouts. As a committee, we'll contact them.
There may be some people that just didn't respond to the survey.
I think
they
so. There were
don't have
14 that didn't respond, and, like everything else, maybe they were overwhelmed and didn't know what it was. So we'll work with the staff, and, we're looking forward to being successful.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Tell them they're paying the $58 anyway, they might as well let someone come in and give them what they need.
Yeah, and
to drink their water.
Hague has done a fabulous job. I'm part of the pilot program. Brian and Teresa are too, and we're very happy with the units that they put in. So, working with staff, we figured out a way to do it so it's not very disruptive to property owners. So
Good.
thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? See none, I'll call close to the public comment. What's your pleasure, board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
With the Mr. Chairman,
With that, yeah, with that revised paragraph at the end of the contract.
Is that good to the maker in the second?
Yeah, that's fine.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, and 7L, is this just so that we have the money to do it?
Yeah.
You want to read it in? And
yes.
7L, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District 7, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 19-065 in the amount of $100,000 from MD7 Marina View Water Buildings and Improvements to Maintenance Water System.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director with Public Works. This is a routine budget adjustment normally seen on the consent calendar, but because of the outcome we were awaiting the outcome of the rate increase, and so we put this one last to make sure that the outcome of the rate increase was favorable. This is a straightforward, clear-cut budget adjustment, moving $100,000, which is less than the total contract. The total contract is for 3 years. The dollar amount being moved is just for the remainder of this fiscal year.
any questions? Any public comment? See none, call close to public comment.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a low second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, and we will break for lunch. We'll come back at 1:45.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
All right.
You-
45, we're started. Welcome back, everybody, to our regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors from Madera County. We will reconvene, and we will start with 7E.
7E, Public Works Department, Engineering Services, State Route 41 Expansion Project. Discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Drake Hagelin and Associates in the amount not to exceed an amount of $4,940,312.82 for professional services to provide design engineering to prepare the plans, specifications, and estimate and right-of-way services for State Route 41 Expansion Project, and authorize the chairman to execute the agreement. Discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Public Works Director to issue the notice to proceed, including optional services noted in the agreement necessary. Discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Auditor Controller to issue payments of contingencies up to 10% of the contract award amount. Discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Public Works Director to solely issue and approve contract change orders in accordance with the Public Contract Code.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Abdelkader, Public Works Director. With me is Mr. Jared Carter, our Deputy Director for Engineering Services. We also have representatives here from Drake Hagelin and Associates. We have Mr. Jose Silva and Greg Gross available for questions later on if needed. For your consideration is the approval of a professional services agreement with Drake Hagelin and Associates for plans, specifications, and estimates. We'll call them PS&E moving forward, and right-of-way phases of the State Route 41 expansion project. The department recommends this contract to be awarded based on the following. The county has entered into a cooperative agreement with Caltrans for the county to be the lead agency for completing the preparation of the PS&E and right-of-way phases of the State Route 41 expansion project. The County Public Works Department issued a request for qualifications, request for proposals for professional services to perform the PS&E and right-of-way services in order to prepare the State Route 41 expansion projects for construction. After review of the written proposals, firms were interviewed by a panel that included county staff, Caltrans staff, and representatives of the developers who are developing in the area served by the State Route 41. Considering the written proposals and the interviews, Drake Hagelin and Associates was selected for negotiations of the final scope of work and fee, which was concluded, and now the department recommends the approval of entering into an agreement with Drake Hagelin and Associates in the amount not to exceed $4,940,312.82 for professional services to prepare the PS&E and right-of-way as required under the co-op agreement with Caltrans. And we are here for your questions.
Not a question, a statement, but what an exciting time. And this is such a important, big project for the entire county. There's, everyone uses this at some point. This will be much needed, and it's a good start to get in here where we can finally be at this point where we can start designing it and moving forward on it, on this PS&E. So thank you for all your work on it, and this has been just a couple meetings to get to this point, right?
Yeah. I can't speak. It won't let me.
It or me, I won't let you speak.
I keep pushing it. It won't let me do it.
You're good.
Well, I went to that meeting yesterday with Caltrans, and I just can't thank our staff and our fellow board members and our CAO and Joel, and I guess he's still in here or not, for working with them and taking this over, because I knew that it would be a lot longer if they were running it, and the shorter time that this is going to be to do, because that's one thing since we started those two projects, or they started those two projects out there, the people have been bugging me like mad. When you got to fix the highway, make it more lanes. Well, we're doing that. We're one step ahead of everybody, I think, in most places, and I just wanted to thank all of you for that. So this is one big step forward. Oh, now it's working.
All right, and I saw their qualifications to doing some projects here in the valley and elsewhere. And so I think this is a good firm to be going forward with. And
Yeah, we believe so, Mr. Chairman.
great. All right, is there any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to public comment.
You will make the motion?
I would love to make a motion for approval.
The second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Looking forward to some good work from you.
I'm sure it's already being written down, but that'd be a good one to get out and let people know that we're moving forward on it. 7G, just kidding, 7F.
7F, purchase of real property, Madera County Monument Sign. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving the purchase of real property, APN 049085022, for a monument sign and public recreation, and authorizing the county administrative officer to sign the purchase agreement and any subsequent documents, and further authorize a notice of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act. 2, discussion and consideration of approval to ratify an agreement regarding a donation of $250,000 for the construction of a Madera County monument sign. 3, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 19-033 in the amount of $250,000. 4, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of anticipated revenue number 19032 in the amount of $310,000.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Maria Miranda here with County Administration General Services Division. I'm also here with Jorge Mendoza, our Capital Projects Manager. Before your board for consideration today is the purchase of 11.58 acres of real property along Highway 41 near Children's Boulevard for the purpose of constructing a Madera County monument sign and expanding outdoor recreation. To provide you some background, in 2016, your board approved the design of the Madera County monument sign. The design was a product of a design team that was made up of local residents as well as county representatives. The selected design was intended to showcase Madera County and its history. The ideal location for the sign is off northbound Highway 41 near Children's Boulevard. The property is an 11.58 acre parcel that is adjacent to San Joaquin River Parkway property, which is used for outdoor recreation. The location then provides the county with not only the ability to construct the sign, but also to tie in additional outdoor recreation opportunities. Here is a drawing of the sign. As you can see, the design incorporated a granite background and wood flume-shaped base. The idea was to keep natural materials and local materials, if at all possible. Here is another drawing of the sign. This mock-up is actually set in the hillside of the property we're discussing today. The intended sign should be visible from both northbound and southbound traffic. The property is being sold for $440,000, which is the appraised value. The deposit is $20,000, and the county will pay all escrow and closing costs. Here on the slide is a photo of the property hillside as you come north on Highway 41, which is there on the left. And then I have also included a parcel map, which shows our property we're discussing today in yellow. The adjacent property in green was the parcel recently sold to the San Joaquin River Parkway for outdoor recreation. The property purchase and subsequent construction of the sign will be funded with a variety of sources, none of which will impact the general fund. The board had previously set aside funds from a settlement agreement for the project, and there's $150,000 available there. We are also recommending utilizing the $310,000 in sale proceeds from the parcel the county sold to the San Joaquin River Parkway. Additionally, Fresno Community Medical Centers has offered to donate the county $250,000 to construct the monument sign. So before your board for consideration today is a resolution approving the property purchase, ratification of the donation agreement in the amount of $250,000, and that your board approve all the corresponding budget actions to bring in those funds.
Good afternoon, board. As part of the next steps upon your board's approval, the county will conduct a geotech investigation and site condition study. We'll proceed with the design and engineering RFP. Once that's completed, then we're going to issue an RFP for construction. The donation agreement does stipulate that we have to be in construct the sign by December 31st, 2020. With that, thank you, and we'll open it up for questions you guys may have.
Supervisor Poitras?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my one question, I get, the property sale, the property purchase, and the donation. Is the sign construction going to, is the cost for the sign construction going to exceed $250,000 that has been donated?
Back in 2016, we did go out for, cost estimates, and we received 3 bids. One of them being super high at $996,000. The other 2 are kind of what it's in line with this type of construction. One of them came in at $249,000. The other came in at $326,000. The 249, this is back in 2016, was for a 70-foot long sign. The 326 was for 105 feet. If we take the linear feet cost for the 326 and reduce it down to 70 feet, that gives us approximately $3,100 per linear feet. And in today's dollars, including escalation of 2.5, we end up with a 2020 construction cost of $240,000. Both of those costs, the 249 and 326, are both reputable companies who have done other signage, large scale, for City of Oakland, for the Oracle Arenas, the City of Dublin, so very reputable companies. So those, I feel comfortable with those numbers and escalating it to current projected cost.
I'm good if for sign construction, $250,000 or less because of the donation, but this is more about approving the property purchase, property sale, and you'll be coming back on the sign at some point. So, okay, very good, thank you.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, 2 things. I think if the bids come in more, I think we can still solicit donations. I think we'll have people out there that will do it. And the second thing is that I wish we could get it done before 2020, December of 2020. I don't like that date on there. I know it takes a while to get government stuff done, but I hate that long.
Let's move.
One of the methods we might pursue, just to make sure that we ensure and maintain the $250,000, is a design build, where we set the parameters. Designer, contractor, or design build entity rather, we have to construct the sign by $250,000. You cannot exceed that. That's our budget.
So you put in the value engineering. I know at one point there was talk of, it needed to have like wood that went into the mountainside just to make sure that everything was natural. But if you can't see it, there could be some value engineering.
Correct. There's certain elements of the design that can be value engineered, as you're stating.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
It's it looks real nice, but I was just thinking, if you look at it like this, you see all that dry grass in front of it. Any possibility of using rock in front of it to kind of cut down on the weeds?
Great idea, man.
Yes, Supervisor. I want to say you mentioned that last time we talked about this project, so it's certainly something we can incorporate into the RFQ process.
Would you please?
Might even get some donated from our new quarry.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I'll donate boulders, we just haul them down.
CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we go back to the slide that's got the map that shows the 2 parcels? Because I think it's worth noting that once we know exactly where the sign is going to sit on the southern end of that yellow parcel, we're pretty confident that we can sell the remaining land there also to the Conservancy. And so that brings in additional dollars.
Yeah, we'd want to make sure that it just stays open space for that vista.
That's great.
Want a little McMansion sitting on top of the sign. I don't think that would be.
Excellent.
All right, any other questions? Any public comment regarding this item?
I just had one item, Mr. Chairman, Matt Trieber, Planning Director for the county.
wanted to say, and I think it was not necessarily mentioned specifically in your previous item, a big item for this corridor really, and what we're looking at, and part of the design and right-of-way consultant we had, is a whole landscape look at this corridor, which this sign would certainly be a main focal point to welcome people into the county and make them understand and realize that they have arrived to a new place and something different, very much different than they have to the south. So I just thought I'd throw it out there on Supervisor Rodriguez's point about, kind of the landscaping and the rocks. That's a main focus on that right-of-way and design consultant. We just had that contract last item. So they'll be looking at this as a comprehensive review.
And this swap, the ability from the San Joaquin River Conservancy's perspective, it does allow for pretty good access right there coming off of the freeway. Is a nice place to stop, have lunch on the way up to Yosemite or wherever, and still enjoy the river and see a lot of the beauty that Madera County holds, even right at the as soon as you enter. It's a beautiful county to be in. So we're still at public comment. Any more public comment? Seeing none, I'll call close to public comment. And Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I wanted to just state that, some people might ask, why a sign? And I say that, signs are branding. Signs delineate what we are. They tell something about us. Every company has a sign. We spent a considerable time looking at our own brand and what it represented to us, what it identified us to other people as. And I really believe that economically, we're going to see benefits from even this sign. I think that people will realize, hey, I'm going to go to Madera County because that's the gateway to Yosemite. I'm going to go to Madera County because that's where the wine trail is. Madera County's really got a lot of open spaces, a lot of places to play, a lot of places to, they have a gold award-winning, national award-winning planned development there. I want to go see that. I might want to live there. So there are all kinds of things that surround that brand. And we're just saying to the state of California and the rest of the world, hey, we're here. And look at us. Watch us do what we do best. And look at the excellence that's being developed here. And it's not being developed with general fund dollars. It's being done through donation and through other means that we have at our disposal that make this very feasible, very amiable to the public and to this board as well. So I'm congratulating all of us on a job well done.
Okay. Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, just what Dave was saying, I do travel around a little bit here and there, and especially out of state stuff hunting. You can't believe how many states and cities and counties have their brand outside their town. I mean, it's a given thing, so people know that that brand means something, and it's a gold mine to me. So, thank you. I took a bunch of pictures of them too, and I was going to look them up, but I didn't take time.
Yeah, having a business, I know how expensive signs can be, and there's a reason, right? It's the way to let people know where they're at, show that sense of arrival, and so there's a reason why signs are what they are. I mean, the Hollywood sign, these there are iconic signs. Everyone knows if you're in Las Vegas. I mean, we're not going to have the blinking lights, but
we could.
Right? I mean, we could. So, all right. Public comment is closed. What's your pleasure, board?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
7H.
5H, update on proposed increase to the transient occupancy tax. Staff update on the proposed ballot measure to increase the transient occupancy tax during the November 2020 election. Provide direction to staff on the scope of the baseline poll to be conducted.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. With me on the table is Mike Madrid from Grassroots Lab and Dale Bacigalupi from County Council. We have a brief presentation, and we'll hand it over to Mike to talk about a baseline poll that we're proposing to conduct in relation to this project. Provide a little background. The current transit occupancy tax, TOT for short, in Madera County is 9%, and it is paid by guests who occupy hotels and short-term rentals that's less than 30 days within the unincorporated areas of the county. The TOT is separate from the Tourism Business Improvement District assessment of 2%. That goes directly to Visit Yosemite, Madera County. In fiscal year 2018-19, TOT alone generated $3.9 million in revenue for the county and the residents of the county. TOT has performed strong over the past several years, which has helped your board fund priorities. Some of these include funding all vacant deputy sheriff positions in the budget, also provide increased funding for Bass Lake Boat Patrol. It has funded 2 additional FTEs, both through funding the FTEs themselves and leveraging grants for the fire department, and has contributed to the ongoing funding for the fire engine replacement program, which we will be in the 3rd year this upcoming fiscal year. In addition, your board has approved funding from the TOT to supplement funding for the Visit Yosemite Madera County organization. In the past years, we have also experienced the cost of doing business increase. It continues to grow, and although property taxes have been strong, that has barely kept up with the inflation factors affecting services. It also poses a challenge for us to enhance and maintain public safety services, in particular fire, to the level that it needs to be. Other critical county services have also been historically underfunded and has not been addressed, and the increase in property taxes hasn't allowed the board to do that. Just wanted to note that in 2018, Mariposa County successfully passed a 2% increase to their TOT, and which helped enhance and maintain public safety services. It passed with almost 60% voter approval. So we wanted to just go over what's being recommended for the board to do today. So what's in today's discussion is really to provide direction on the scope of the baseline poll. That's the first bullet. After the poll is done, analyzed, and released to the public, the board, the board will then determine whether a TOT, the TOT increase will be pursued in the forthcoming November 2020 general election. And if approved, that TOT can help generate additional revenues to fund primarily, reduction of threat of wildfires, but also to enhance and maintain fire protection in the district, maintaining law enforcement services. It could also be used to repair damaged roads and maintain county services to protect the quality of life and attract jobs and businesses. What is the scope of the baseline poll? So first and foremost is to measure the willingness of voters to approve a TOT increase, first and foremost. But it also will measure voters' understanding of county services and funding and what types of services are voters willing to support. We're also recommending to test the support for various TOT percentage increase scenarios. So 2% would be matching what Mariposa passed in 2018, but since we're conducting an extensive poll, we're recommending to test 3% and 4%, and what's the support level for that, and for what services will that pay for. We just wanted to show the chart on the left is where Madera County currently is. It's a 9% TOT with a 2% T-bid. For reference, provided a combined rate of 11%, because a lot of folks look at it as a combined item. Mariposa's current TOT, which was updated in 2018 through a ballot measure, was 12%. Their T-bid is less than ours. It's at 1%, so for a combined rate of 13%. We don't believe the County of Fresno has a TOT, but we put the City of Fresno's TOT for comparison purposes. Theirs is a 12% TOT and a 1.5% T-bid for a combined rate of 13.5. We would like to note and stress that any of the increased scenarios that we recommend to test with a baseline poll does not impact the T-bid. This is all pertaining to the TOT. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Madrid to talk more about the baseline poll.
Thank you, members of the board. Again, Mike Madrid with Grassroots Lab. with a public affairs firm that regularly deals with public agencies at the local level, specifically cities and counties, in helping them guide and develop an understanding of resident and/or voter sentiment, depending on the survey that you're looking at considering, to test the level of support for county and/or city services, local government services, to provide you as policymakers a scientific insight into how your residents actually feel about the services that you are providing. And hopefully use that as a guide for policymakers in the development of future policy, future ordinances, and strategic planning. As part of that, what we also do is take a look at what the threshold may or may not be for different tax increases or revenue enhancements. What are the revenues that you currently construct your general fund budget, whether it's a TOT, sales tax, assessments, and try to give you, again, as policymakers, as broad a look as possible into what the thresholds may or may not be with your residents in terms of what it is that they're willing to pay for, if anything. So we would recommend, taking as broad a look as possible to the extent that there's an appetite to do that. Today's report is focused almost exclusively on the TOT. That's absolutely fine. That's not a recommendation to do anything beyond that at this point. It's just to provide you all with the options of considering as policymakers what the appetite may be now or in the future if there is a consideration, and as you go in through numerous processes for strategic planning to decide where it is you want to allocate your resources, your time, your energy as a county, and how you might go about paying for that. Some basic things on the baseline survey, as Joel mentioned. We'll be looking at a sample size of, I believe, about 600 respondents. That's more than ample for a county of this size to get scientific results with plus or minus 2% margin of error. We run, again, a battery of services related to county services and potential revenue projections, as well as the opportunity to look at some what we call open-ended questions to have the respondents done by land and cell phone, the opportunity to kind of let them weigh in their own words some of the sentiments that they may be feeling about those county services. Should take a few weeks from the time that we actually go out into what we call go out into the field to get a demographically accurate construct of a sample that is representative of your county, provide those results. Usually goes through about a 4 to 5 week process of working through a draft phase to compile all the cross tabulations. We will be able to look at the sentiment in each district with all of the same questions to give you, again, a little bit more specific look into your own residents, because you obviously represent districts, but also a countywide perspective as well. So with that, we're happy to take any questions or turn over to council, however you want to proceed.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah. Been looking for something like this for 4 or 5 years, so I'm glad we're at this point. When we're doing this poll, is it possible to also put on the questionnaire about a hospital tax and or a SPCA building tax?
The animal shelter.
Animal shelter, yeah. To ask those questions too. I mean, do you do it now?
We would recommend that when you are, again, out in the field or conducting a poll, to the extent that we can budget for as many questions as possible, we would certainly recommend that and suggest that. So the short answer is yes, depending on how much we're trying to cram into that poll, but specifically when we'll take notes. And I know that those are issues that have been, I think, on the mind of Madera County residents for some time. And that's precisely what we're looking at, is how to prioritize those services with other services.
So maybe when you start getting this finalized, you can bring it to us and let us look at those questions and see if we want to add, take away, or subtract from them. And then how many's on your team?
Well, staffing?
Yeah, on your team.
Our staff is about 10 people, but we'll be working with a separate polling firm to do this work.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to interject on that. The polling firm is separate from their firm, but they'll be coordinating. They'll be coordinating the poll with them. The polling firm that we were going to go with was the same polling firm that did the Mariposa poll from the November 2018 general election. And they've also done polling for various school districts for Madera Unified. They've done polling for a couple of measures in Fresno County as well.
Oh, okay.
So they have experience in the
They
local,
know
but they
our
are
area.
the most recent one they
That's
did was
good.
the Mariposa poll.
That's real good.
Supervisor Rogers.
How accurate was your polling in Mariposa?
I think we were within
Compared to the
half a
outcome.
percentage point of the actual outcome of the race.
Half?
Uh-huh.
That's not bad. It's pretty good.
Supervisor Poitras.
On a side note, I'd just like to mention, Mike, I've always enjoyed reading your California City News, so.
Thank you.
It's
Council.
very, very good news.
It's good to put a
item.
face with a name.
Exactly. So I heard your name, I'm going, what? You know, so anyway, yeah, very influential. Appreciate all your work out there.
Thank you for your work in local government. It's important.
I think this is important. I think this going out and actually hearing what the people have to say. I think we try in our best efforts as local elected leaders to be that voice of the people and vote, where the people want us to be. And sometimes it's hard to understand what that voice really is. So I think having this scientific method of being able to actually hear what that is and know with some level of certainty what people are looking for, what are the issues, and I have supreme confidence in this board that if the results come back and they say we don't want it, we don't need it, we're not going to push it forward. And so I think the best way to make decisions is with good information,
in front of us.
to have good data, and make the best decision we can, given the information that we have. And so I think this is a great start to that, to understand really what it is that the people want, need, or view as issues. So I'm excited to move forward on this portion of it, hopefully if it passes. So no further questions. Is there any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
Well, I don't mind making a motion, I just, she won't let me do it again. It says, give direction, we want to just go ahead and give you direction and move forward with this polling and come up with some polling questions that we can look at a later time.
Now, for the polling
how do we-
questions, for those to come back, right, what would be like if we brought them and had all those questions in here, can that create issues in terms of the poll itself, whether or not it's
When's a good time to do the polling?
We would recommend after the holiday season. We can work with you in varying capacities to make sure that we are getting the instrument right and make sure that we get a flavor for the local issues that would arise that we would not necessarily be as in tune with as you presumably are. Look, we're very comfortable working with everybody to get as much input into the document as possible, with one little caveat, recognizing that you ultimately are the client. That is, there is a method to our madness here. We do try to work, and where we do feel that we may be either reaching for too much or too little, we will give that professional advice. But ultimately, the decision is yours. It will be your instrument. It will be developed by us and a professional polling firm that does this with California local governments specifically, with a very high level of success, high rate of success on these measures, engaging sentiment. But we want to make sure that it's a tool that you understand from beginning to end, so that when you get the results back, you have an understanding of why it was created the way that it was, why we approached the questions the way that we did, why we sampled the folks that we did, and why we are looking at the question set that we are. It makes it that much more valuable when you get the results.
Right. And I think, from what I'm understanding from your board, is that there is no hesitation for the poll to be broader and not narrowly just focused on testing TOT. What we can do, if there's a concern, specific questions, is when we come back, before it's released, there'll be a summary of what does this poll cover, what is this testing, et cetera. It doesn't have to be the questions, but what is a summary of the scope of the poll, and if there's any issues there, then the board can provide direction. We don't like this portion of the scope, let's rework the question. Would that work, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, one very important thing about polling is that the question is everything and how it's phrased, and it can be skewed to elicit a response that is not scientific, but directed. And so that I trust the professionalism of this organization to do the very thing that we're looking for, and that's a specific scientific response. And that requires a lot of thought. Human nature is so understandable, but unless we ferret that out in the exact question, we're gonna miss the mark.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague, and I think you've heard the range of things that are here. I think any more input from us will put in some of our biases, and I'd rather it.
You got to be careful.
Yeah,
about
I think we know the range of different ones that have been set up here that need to be tested, and kind of go with that and let the professionals who know how to write these questions, since you're right, it's very important what is in the question, and if we have too much input, we could bias that, and I don't want to do that.
Well, I was asking, should we have them bring something back in December or first part of January to let us look at?
I mean, if you wanted,
My recommendation would we would begin drafting through the end of this year and be ready to field within the first week shortly thereafter of January. So especially if you want to be involved, and again, I'm very comfortable with that. I'm excited by that. We're also very comfortable.
Yeah, I think, we.
Well, I think, I don't know that it's a matter of wanting to be part of the crafting of the questions as much as being prepared for people questioning us.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's, I think that's the.
That's the main thing, because they asked me to call me up and say, hey, this bunghole called me and said that he wants me to vote a 2% tax. What am I going to do? How come?
Yeah.
In a county of this size,
what the
Mr.
bunghole
Supervisor,
said?
this probably happened, yeah.
So that's,
I'd
I'd just like to see him, and if you could bring him back, I guess, first week or two in January, and,
Would you
I
be
mean,
able to
I want to make a
circulate it?
motion, but I want to make sure it's covered everything.
Would we get a draft version of the poll prior to?
Yeah, we could probably do it in the first week or two of December, begin with the
That'd be
editing,
perfect.
the editing process, revising it, making sure that we're getting as much input as possible, and then with the goal of being prepared right after the New Year's Eve holiday to go into the field when your residents are back and working and ready to tackle an exciting new year.
That sounds good.
I'd like to say one more thing real quick about the poll and about what we're doing. And that is that, the Yosemite Visitors Bureau has invested in our future as far as tourism goes.
Yep.
And there is a direct correlation between the investment made and the response to that investment. And we know that Visit California, as an example, the more money they invest in the advertisement of California, there's a corresponding return in foreign visitors, people visiting from other states, et cetera. So this is part of an investment in economic development for this community, and it's paying off big time.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're looking at here. And I just want to make that distinction before people think, well, they're just raising taxes. Well, the people who are paying those taxes come from other states, other countries, other counties, and they're coming to see us and pay and spend dollars in our county.
Right.
And there's a corresponding return to that investment.
Big time. Okay, I move we approve give direction to the staff to move forward with this with Mr. Mike and his company.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Supervisor Rodriguez.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, 7J.
7J, Board of Directors, Groundwater Sustainability Agency for the Madera, Chowchilla, and Delta Mendota Subbasins Water and Natural Resources Department. Discussion and consideration to amend the residency requirement for the Advisory Committee for County GSAs.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. All day wait.
Thank you,
That's
Supervisor
okay.
Wheeler.
It's well worth it, just to hear us talk.
Good afternoon, Stephanie Agneson, Director of Water and Natural Resources. I'm here just for a brief discussion, hopefully. On November 5th, your board approved new requirements for the advisory committee for the county GSA. One of those requirements was that 100% of the committee needed to be a resident. It has since come to our attention when I reviewed these rules with the advisory committee itself that many of them were not residents. Many of them farmed here but lived elsewhere, Fresno, Clovis, Kerman, and were still interested and invested financially in Madera County. So I'm suggesting a modification of the 100% of the committee must be a resident to the majority of the advisory committee. 6 of 11 must be residents of Madera County. I'd be glad to discuss or take your questions.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I'll take, I deserve the bullet on this one because I made such a big deal about it. I had no idea that literally almost none of the committee lived in the county of Madera. But I would like to point out that they all have financial assets and interest in the success of this community. When you own land, it means a lot to you. You try to work the land, you try to make the land work for you. And so I feel like that is legitimate, and I hadn't really given that
I felt the same way.
considerable thought, and we were just kind of like, I was trying to look out for the best interest, and I think I overstepped a little bit, so I am interested in seeing this go the way you've suggested here.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I really gave some thought when I was reading this, and I just don't think outsiders out of our county would care about our water like our local ones would. And that was one of the reasons I thought it should be 100%. Now, if you say you want to do a majority of them, how's the voting go? Does it have, if there's only 8 there, and 5 of them are from out of the county, and 3 are in county, and they have something they really important to vote on, they could outvote us? Or are we going to have the majority they have to have? You say there's 11 or 13?
11 total.
11. So if, when it comes to important votes, those 6 should be from, at least 5 of them or something should be from Madera County. And do they all own land in here that's on that board, or do they work for a company that owns the land in here? I think if they own the land themselves, gives them a little bit more,
Good point.
Skin in the game.
it's there,
That's what we're looking for,
it's
skin
ownership
in the game.
And if they're not, if Tom Wheeler works for an almond company out of San Diego, and I'm working here and I'm on that board, you think I care about Madera's water? I mean,
Probably.
You're going to get the best interest for your country.
yeah, but if I own the land, I think that's different. So do you know of any of those people that's on that board just work for the people that own the land, or they actually own the land?
So we'll be looking for new members, right, for 2020. So we haven't selected them yet. Of the current people, there are, for example, the Easts have someone who works for them who is on the board. So he does not live in Madera County, he lives outside of Madera County.
Don't own land in Madera County?
He does not to my knowledge.
But he represents.
But he's
them.
Yeah, that's what I
representing
mean. That's
them.
what worries me. They have no,
Well, if he's, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If he's representing them and knowing the East, they're not going to let somebody represent them that doesn't have the best interest of the East. So there's a lot of nuances here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuances, but I also think that we're missing an important piece here, which is it is an advisory board, right? So
Well, yeah, it is an advisory board, that's
they
true.
can, if we see that it's coming out of the advisory board that, say they say, well, we need to allow for water to be shipped out to Fresno County. You think
That
it's
ain't
going to
gonna
get
happen
past
anyway,
this
'cause we got
board?
a law against
Not
that.
going to happen.
Right.
I mean,
And we are, by the Constitution, have to live here, right? So we're, I think that you know, I think we got a little out over our skis in saying that, you know, you got to have skin in the game, or you should, you know, sleep where you live, or I forget which. But, you know, this is.
Well, can we put that the majority of the meeting participants are Madera County residents?
I think that adds just one extra layer to Stephanie's trying to, like, so she's probably going to be counting a quorum and then saying, okay, we've got a quorum here.
But every one of them's from Fresno County.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, we're getting stuck on some boundary lines.
It might not ever be a problem, but if it ever was,
I think we're getting stuck on some boundary lines and assuming that because someone lives in Fresno, but say they, you know, the only thing that they do in Fresno is sleep there, but they're
their
here
livelihood.
all the time, that they're gonna just sell it down the river, you know, because their voting registrations in Fresno County. I just don't see that being
a problem.
I don't see that being a problem or an issue. We still appoint these members too. If there's someone that is coming across
Looks
that
a little shaky.
is shaky, that is you can tell is coming in to try and be that that fly in the ointment, and is going to be self-serving to another jurisdiction, they're not going to get past even the appointment portion here. I mean, we vet them out very well.
Okay, I trust you guys' wisdom, yeah. Is that wisdom?
Thank
I
you.
don't know about that.
I don't know if it's wisdom. Did you have?
Yeah, I wanted to just say, you know, there's a whole bunch of different scenarios that could happen here. I mean, literally, if we start looking at it too in depth, because you could have people, people who own land but don't live here, people who don't own land but live here, who could just move out anytime they want to, have no real stake here. I mean, we've got those on the board too. So I think it behooves us to look at it as it is. It's an advisory. The ultimate responsibility for this vote lays right here. And we're going to take it seriously. We're going to take it seriously. We can say, hey, you're way off base. If Stephanie sees a problem with the committee, she can say, hey, we've got a problem with the committee. We need to discuss it. We have charge over that committee. That's all there is to it.
We're just landing on you, Stephanie, don't worry about it.
So I feel like I complicated things by overthinking the board structure there, and I think we ought to go back to the original auspices that we had discussed.
Okay, the original meaning you could work or you could live here.
You can work or live or
play.
You know, I would say live or own property in Madera County.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Just working here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Does that cover it very well or not?
Live.
Not really.
If they live here or they own property?
Like I own a business in Fresno. I care deeply what happens on Shaw Avenue, and you know, like it's a big deal to me what's going on over there, and you know, and I'm not going to advise something that you know that's just going to help me back here, just to cut off my nose.
You brought up another thing that might be here, you know, maybe let's say you own a business in Fresno, but you don't own the land.
Yeah.
So you're paying for a business license in Madera County.
Yeah, and I think, you know, saying owning land, you know, there's, you know, some of our DAC representatives may be renting their house.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, they're even more disenfranchised because they're not a landowner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
I
can't
think
really do that.
Live or,
So I think it was just, her original proposal was probably the best, just
Yeah.
six of them Madera County residents, and other, hopefully you are, and if they're not, they're not.
yeah.
If that pleases the board.
I make a
Well,
motion, oh, you got it?
No,
Is it public
no,
comment?
no, any public comment regarding this item?
I thought so, crazy to come up here. What'd you spill out there? You kept wiping up. In your purse?
What did you do that
You didn't have to go to the bathroom, you went out there and went there and then done that? That's how it was.
It was water, Rhonda.
It was water, huh? Okay.
We need to see the bottle of water. Public comment is now
I kept
open.
seeing all your bags, your papers out there. What the heck is she doing?
Yeah, that was a whole cup of water.
I still ain't want a gun either.
Well, here's the problem. She's from Merced County. She didn't care about that Madera water. She just poured it out right in
There
her
you
purse.
Oh, my gosh, that's right. I forgot about that. You can't talk. Go back to Merced.
All right, public comment is open, sorry.
Christina Beckstead, Executive Director, Madera County Farm Bureau. The position from the Farm Bureau is that you just go back to the way it was last year, essentially, with regards to this, and eliminate any mention of, I mean, no offense, Stephanie, but even eliminate the sixth position, the six people required to reside in Madera County. At the end of the day, if you look at the current advisory committee, those that do not live in Madera County have their principal place of business in Madera County.
Yeah.
And they just live across the river is kind of what happens, or, I mean, in one way or another, right? Whether you're in Kerman or whether, I mean, that's the situation. I mean, I am a prime example that I am more involved, more engaged in Madera County than I am in Merced County, and I am a Merced County resident. So to put those constraints, there's already a situation in that you have struggles with those that do live here that don't attend that advisory committee meeting,
Or don't give a darn.
or don't give a darn. But to put a further limitation on it, I think you're just gonna make that pool of people even more difficult. You're gonna make those seats even more
You think
difficult to
six
fill.
is too many?
I think you just eliminate it completely. I think you don't add that as a restriction, because there's so many nuances. I mean, I look at Brian Elkins, who is one of the advisory committee members on behalf of the East family. He lives in Fresno County, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But it's his job to report to the East family and to do what the East family wants him to do, and his livelihood revolves around him. He's also one of their top people. You know, he's not just some employee that's working an hourly.
He's a water guy.
Yeah, right. I mean, he is someone that has been with them for years, and that they felt comfortable appointing that position. I look at Devin Avilas, who's the current chair for AgriWorld Cooperative. All of the landowners for that entity live in a completely different country. And Devin is I don't want to say he's the president, but he is like the CEO, if you will, of AgriWorld Cooperative. I don't remember what his official title is, but
Something like that.
I mean, you're not getting just a 8-hour employee that is representing these people that, you know, feeds the cows or, you know, is out
Milk the cow.
milk the cows, or a guy that's out just trimming trees, right? I mean, they all work in it, but these are people that are in positions of power within these entities that are choosing to work here. So to eliminate that restriction, obviously, I mean, maybe add some wording in the application process that it says it's encouraged to reside in Madera County, but not make it a requirement to reside in Madera County.
Rob, what do you think? I'd like to have
Let's
your
get through
opinion.
public comment and then
Oh,
we'll
I see.
close it and, anything else?
The only other additional comment I would make, but it's not on the agenda for today as it relates to this, is, and I was not able to be here for the discussion on this because I was at a family funeral, but that the ag seats actually be more of a acreage-based, like a small and a large farmer, versus a permanent and a non-permanent or a row crop. And I know when I originally discussed this with the board and proposed a structure from Farm Bureau, it was a large grower was anyone over 100 acres and a small grower was anyone under 100. But I know that's not on today's agenda. I just wanted to bring that up and
put that little bug in your ear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment regarding this item? See none, I'll call close to public comment. I don't know if we're going to open up the whole can of worms back on this one.
I'd just like to hear from Rob.
Supervisor Wheeler has.
Certainly. I agree with Christina. I think that especially in the situation with the East, I think that's a great example. I mean, they have significant financial investment here in this county, and they're certainly not going to have somebody represent them that's going to put their investment in jeopardy. And I believe that's going to be the case with most. And in my mind, I know when it finally gets to our agenda and we look at it, I've been looking at it very closely as we move along, but, I don't think any of us are going to do something or vote on something that is going to jeopardize or do something that will negatively affect our aquifers. So.
I agree. And I mean, you look at, with Delta Mendota representation, I don't know if we would even be able to have representation for someone who doesn't live in Madera County, right?
Yeah, what if I make a motion that says prioritize, if we can, a majority of the Madera County people, if not,
Yeah.
it's open?
Yeah. I think
I make a motion that we have staff prioritize getting the majority, the 6 of them, of Madera County resident. If it's not possible, it's open. Would that work, Rob?
That would be fine.
Okay. Anybody second?
Second. I'll second it. I just want to go home.
I think it's
I
I second it?
Okay, good.
I don't know.
Oh, Rob seconded. Or
Who knows?
Supervisor
I don't
Fletcher
know.
Seconded it.
Rob,
Clerk?
second. Who made the motion?
Supervisor Wheeler.
Okay. Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
What?
Call for the vote.
I thought you was asking me a question. Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Thank you.
It passed.
All right.
5-0.
So what are you going to be bringing back next meeting on this advisory committee?
That perhaps you'd like a 5th presentation on this
Yes, I would
topic.
like one. Need one more option. All
Yeah,
right.
I think
thank
it's
you.
important that we get good people and that they attend.
Right,
That's-
yeah, they attend. That's
Because
a
we had
big point.
residents in Madera County that weren't attending, and that's a problem, taking a slot.
All right. That concludes our regular agenda. Is there any pending legislation? Let's see, shaking their heads. Supervisor and staff report. Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My main activity was visiting Sacramento last Friday for a CalCog meeting and then a special meeting with the Secretary of Transportation. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more detail in tomorrow's MCTC meeting, but one of the highlights for me was when the Secretary, he was a little bit more, I guess, agitated than he was whenever he met with staff 10 or 11 days ago. He wasn't quite this easygoing guy, and he was making it pretty adamant that he delivered an olive branch to us, and which of course was not sufficient, and I let him know what I thought about his olive branch. So I'll leave it with that.
Absolutely, buddy.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
While Rob was in Sacramento, we were in Fresno trying to convince the commission that what they were doing was not in our interest. So hopefully we did some good.
So, Supervisor Rogers?
Yes, I'm at this point really preparing hard to go to DC and do some lobbying on behalf of the GSA for our projects. So we're getting ready to do that. And I was privileged this last week to do 2 speeches for the veterans. And the Veterans Cemetery in Chowchilla has prepared a new location that's quite beautiful, and they're going to use tiles to commemorate the fallen warriors, and nice flagpole, and I was happy to be able to dedicate that, and it was a very poignant day for me. Thank you.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Thank you. On pending legislation, I think that I would still like to put in closed session about Mono County and Mammoth Lakes, what we should respond to on some of that stuff that's out there. Okay, it's a plan, okay. Then the Eastern Madera County Chambers had a luncheon and a legislative panel last Wednesday in Oakhurst, and the Honorable Frank Bigelow was there, and on the panel, and the new Chancellor of the JC for Madera and Oakhurst was there. Great guy on the panel, and Bobby Connors on it, and myself. And there was probably 70, 80 people there. It was packed.
That's great.
So it was a good session.
CEO, County Council. And also, while Rob was up in Sacramento, thank you for making that trip, and so that we could divide ourselves to still be one voice everywhere. I was also at the CTC meeting. It seemed like the commissioners understood and were sympathetic to our cause. And so I've been hearing about some good movement in the positive direction to keep us in the ITIP. So that was great. Also attended the assembly hearing regarding the high-speed rail segment, as well as Supervisor Poitras and Supervisor Rodriguez, to make sure that regardless of what you think about the project, not just leaving it in place and diverting the money to the Bay Area or Southern California. I know that they never get much of anything, so felt bad trying to take something more from them. But that was all of mine. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting.
Very good.